of them can make a deep run and maybe get a second world title.
Yeah, so day one is what we'll be broadcasting for you here, given that it is day one here of the Pokemon World Championships. So today on mainstream, you can see we're going to be taking the first 5 rounds of the Video Game Championship Swiss tournament, and then switching over to a few rounds of the Trading Card Game Swiss tournament. Again, there are also dedicated streams for both the video games and the Trading Card Game Championships. Make sure you're following all of those throughout the event to make sure that you don't miss a moment. But the Swiss rounds are what we're going to be focusing on today here at day one, which is exciting because Swiss rounds basically means that everyone who is here is going to be playing all of the games. You know, every round you'll be playing a game, and then at the end of the day, if you have a record of 2 losses or better, you will advance to day 2.
Yeah, and one thing that's especially exciting is that the best players who are able to accumulate of championship points in their respective regions are actually seeded into day 2
Swiss rounds basically means
a lot of
that everyone
players, a lot of the favorites to win this tournament actually don't have to play it all today. They can kind of enjoy,
every round you'll be playing a game,
maybe get some sense of what decks or what teams people are using.
If you have a record,
kind of prepare against that for
2
tomorrow.
losses
but
or
today
better,
we have around, I want to say, 270 players on the video game side playing in day 1, and only a very small percentage of those will move on to the next day. Like you mentioned, you have to win a lot of games. You can only afford to lose up to 2. So normally that means either 6 wins or 7 wins. And then tomorrow, same format, but after that, all the players with 2 losses or less will move on to this final elimination bracket. So it is a marathon, especially for those guys that have to go through day 1. But we've seen a lot of incredible runs from players who had to play in day 1 and then made it to day 2. Wolfglick, who won the World Championships in 2016, actually played through all of day 1, day 2, and Top Cut. So these tournaments are definitely a lot more rigorous than they used to be. There are a lot more rounds, and it's kind of a mental battle.
Yeah, and in many ways, you know, having that day 1 to play through, to get warmed up, to see how people are playing their games. You know, you can train, you can practice, you know, you can do practice matches with people, but people sometimes play differently when they're actually here in the tournament setting. So getting that experience on day 1, we've seen be very valuable to competitors as they move through day 2. But, you know, I know a lot of people are really happy to have their day 2 invite and are looking forward to scouting out the competition today, getting some extra sleep, and hoping to be fresh and ready for tomorrow's Swiss rounds. Yeah,
definitely. And I think having been on both sides before, you know, it's really nice to be able to relax in day 2. But like you mentioned, sometimes you feel like you're running really hot. You feel like you play really well. All the practice in the world, you know, it doesn't really, obviously it matters, but when it comes down to game day, everyone's on the same page. And so, you know, sometimes if you just feel like you play really well and you feel like your team is performing really well, that could actually give you an advantage if you make it through day 1 and make it into day 2. So it'll be really exciting to follow. We've got a lot of rounds today slated up for competition.
Yeah, practice is practice, but now it's time for game day.
Exactly.
For those of you who have been following along this circuit for the entire year or previous years, a lot of the Video Game Championships is going to look pretty familiar to you. But for those of you who are just hopping in for the World Championships, here's a brief introduction to some of the things you might be able to expect this weekend.
Battles in the Pokemon video games are exciting tests of strategy, but if you're a newer player, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the choices. When it comes to training and battling with your Pokemon, where do you begin? Here's a simple guide to help break it all down. Pokemon, as well as the moves they attack with, are split into different types, such as grass, fire, and water. Each of these types has strengths and weaknesses against each other. So a grass-type Pokemon is weak against fire-type moves, but resistant to water-type moves. A more dramatic example would be that electric-type moves are strong against flying-type Pokemon, but won't hit ground-type Pokemon at all. Some Pokemon possess 2 types instead of 1. Rowlet is both a grass and flying-type Pokemon with the combined weaknesses and resistances of those 2 types. So what makes a Pokemon unique, even from others of its own species? It's a combination of the Pokemon's moves, its stats, the item it's holding, and its ability. Pokemon can learn many different moves, but may only know up to 4 at the same time. All moves are split into 3 categories: physical moves, special moves, and status moves, represented by the symbol next to each move. A Pokemon's stats can vary wildly from one to another and are a big factor in each Pokemon's unique battle strategy. A Pokemon has 6 stat categories. If a Pokemon's HP reaches 0, it will faint and be unable to battle for the rest of the match. A Pokemon's attack determines how much damage it deals when using physical moves like Wild Charge or Icicle Crash. Meanwhile, its defense determines how much damage it will take from an opponent's physical moves. Special attack and special defense function similar to attack and defense, but are considered for special moves like Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. A Pokemon's speed stat determines the order of battle. When two Pokemon face off, the one with the higher speed will move first that round. Each Pokemon can hold a single item given to them by the player. Some items are consumed by the Pokemon for a one-time effect, and other items have a long-term passive effect. Each Pokemon possesses an ability which comes into effect automatically when specific conditions are met. Rowlet's ability, Overgrow, boosts the power of its Grass-type attacks when its HP is low. Certain abilities show a message on screen when they activate. Finally, a brand new game mechanic for Pokemon Sun and Moon players are Z-moves. These are super-powered versions of standard moves that can only be used once per battle. There's a lot to consider when deciding which Pokemon to battle with, especially with trainers being allowed 6 Pokemon on a team. Focus on the basics to start. Find your favorite Pokemon and train it to have moves, an item, and an ability that play to its strengths. Then, find some teammates that help cover your first Pokemon's weaknesses. You'll have a solid, battle-ready team before you know it. If you want more information on how to train or battle with your Pokemon, you can find resources on Pokemon.com. Want to watch the pros battle it out at our premier tournaments? Watch on Pokemon.com/live.
All right, that's sort of a rough and tumble introduction to the world of competitive Pokemon battling. What you'll be watching this weekend is actually going to be doubles battling, which is a really fun, interesting take on the traditional singles format of one-on-one. Players here will actually be bringing teams of 6 Pokemon and then choosing 4 of those 6 Pokemon to bring to battle, and then 2 at a time will be competing at any given turn. And that, especially that team preview stage, we've seen really determines the way that these games go. Being able to take that momentum early and then snowball that all the way into a victory is kind of the name of the game for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, and the format that we're playing this year is pretty exciting as well. It's one of those open decks formats where almost every Pokemon is allowed, other than those really big title legendaries like Kyogre, Rayquaza, Xerneas. So
you may remember from 2016.
Yeah, exactly. The last time we had an open decks format was actually in 2015. That year was really interesting. Japan actually completely dominated the World Championships that year, and a lot of the players used the same team archetype. This year, there hasn't seemed to have been one core that's maybe as dominant.
Yeah.
Back then, it was like the Kangaskhan cores that were really popular. So curious to see whether players have, especially from Japan, whether they have figured out a core that they think is really strong, or whether we'll just see all kinds of different teams like we have in more recent years.
Yeah, and all of the international championships that have sort of led up to this World Championships, been really impressed by the diversity of the teams. There's not one, like you mentioned, archetype that is completely dominant. People are able to sort of stretch their wings a little bit and come up with a team that fits themselves personally without having to just pick the strongest Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my favorite thing about the World Championships is everyone always has, it seems like, a pocket pick or two there. Maybe we haven't seen this Pokemon too much throughout the year, but it ends up fitting specifically very well onto certain teams. So some examples, Sejun Park's Pachirisu in 2014 is a great one. Wolfglick's Raichu and Hitmontop in 2016. You can think of, every World Champion has had 1 or 2 really cool things on, and I feel like that's kind of the extra edge you need to give yourself in order to win. But I think we're almost ready to get into this one.
Yeah, that's enough talking from both of us. It's time to begin the Pokemon World Championships here. Let's toss it on down to Anna, who's on the main stage.
We are all ready. Thank you so much. Are you guys ready? Awesome. Now, we have 2 players that are ready to go first, and you know how it feels to go first, so I'm going to hear some loud cheers from y'all, right? I thought so. All right, let's welcome our first 2 players to the stage today. First, coming all the way from Argentina, it's Agustin DeSico. And his opponent, coming to us from Japan, Ryota Otsubo. We can't wait to watch you 2 face off, so please shake hands. Good luck and have fun. Take your seats. Let's get right into it. Casters, back to you.
All right. It wouldn't be the World Championships if we didn't kick off with the defending world champion in our first round of Swiss.
Yeah, absolutely. Really. Looking to further solidify his legacy. His opponent, on the other hand, I think kind of barely squeaked into the World Championships, managed to get a couple of top placings in more regional events in Argentina, but he's definitely up against quite the monster in Ryota.
Yeah, Augustine showing some success in the special events in his local circuit back home in Argentina. You know, qualifying for the World Championships, there are some names that you just don't want to see on the other side of the pairings board. If it's your first World Championships, you're here Swiss day one, round one, and the defending world champion is certainly one of those. So you have to hope that Augustine's going to be able to keep his composure and not get scared by the competitor that he's against while he goes into team preview here. Yeah, it looks like we do see both teams. I always love the first game of Worlds because you got to see what players have decided to bring to the tournament. Augustine has ended up going with this Sand team that we actually saw do really well in the middle of the season. He did win the seniors division at the Oceania International Championships. Ryota, I'm really excited because he's using his favorite Mega Evolution, Mega Gardevoir, and Gastron as well. A lot of these Pokemon we haven't seen too much of, specifically the Gardevoir and the Gastron. You know, Rotom Heat did win the North American International Championships, and I think the dynamic of this matchup is really interesting. Azumarill would be really good for Augustine, but he has to worry about that Gastron because it's able to redirect all those water type attacks away. And you know, with Sand, you can just hit really, really hard. Specifically, Excadrill, it's able to outspeed and kind of just get these super effective attacks off, especially against Incineroar and Gardevoir. And there's also redirection here on Augustine's side. So yeah, two pretty offensive teams here. A lot of Intimidate going back and forth as well, and I'm excited to see how this one plays out. All right, well, here we go. It is Game 1, Day 1 of the Pokemon Video Game World Championships. All the possibilities before these trainers, selecting their 4 Pokemon that they're going to bring to this first match and set the tone for the rest of the weekend. Looks like Augustine is going to go ahead and lead off with his Salamence and Excadrill, getting the Intimidate off onto Ryota's Landorus Therian form. Ryota also leading with the Landorus and Gardevoir. So Landorus going to be able to get the big Intimidates off onto both the Excadrill and the Salamence. Looks like does get the Trace. Gets the Trace Intimidate, so that's 2 Intimidates on Ryota's side. And that's going to make both of those physical attackers on Augustine's side very, very, very unhappy. Yeah, Gardevoir with the Trace instantly paying dividends right from the start of this game. It's a world champion intimidation. It is, yeah. Salamence, you know, doesn't really like this matchup too much. You have to worry about potential hidden power Isis from special landers, which we actually saw a ton of at the North American International Championships. Gardevoir also hits it for super effective. Because Excadrill isn't in the sand, it isn't able to necessarily outspeed and just knock out that Gardevoir, and especially not after those 2 Intimidates. Exactly. So I think Augustine here is probably going to want to consider switching out. And it looks like we are going to see the Excadrill swap out. Yeah, Excadrill has to retreat from this position. Can't stick around with 2 Intimidates without Sand. Going to retreat for the Thundurus Therian form while Mega Evolving his Salamence. So going to go ahead and get those stat boosts onto Mega Salamence while switching in the Thundurus on his own side. Ryota will be matching the Mega Evolution on the Salamence with the Mega Evolution of his own. Like you mentioned, his favorite Mega Pokemon, Mega Gardevoir. Now out on the field, staring down both the Salamence and the Thundurus. Salamence gets a big Hyper Voice off onto both the Gardevoir and Landorus with some good damage, but Gardevoir's Hyper Voice is way louder and stronger. Actually picking up the KO on the Salamence. Big attack there. We are going to see the Z move, so that looks like the Tectonic Rage coming out from Landorus. So yeah, there are no targets for that Tectonic Rage on Augustine's side. Great switch in there by Thundurus, but Ryota's lead was so good that I was able to basically get a knockout in the half. And
I think that's still a fine turn on Ryota's end. He was basically playing it pretty safe. It was pretty interesting to note though that the Gardevoir was actually fast. That's something that we don't see necessarily all the time. And once again, Excadrill is out here without the sand, so it's still doesn't have that speed boost. Landorus here could consider maybe swapping out and back in. You do have of course, this is the variant form as well, which is
FF 係咪一齊講啊 ？FF 開 Discord 啊，嗰係咪讀 Discord？唔知啊。依家咧應該好大聲㗎咯。依家係咪好大聲啊？喂！
Looks like Ryota is switching out.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you probably assume there's a potential Tyranitar in the back, and Incineroar is an excellent switching, getting the Intimidate off immediately. Also, it's highly
依家咧夠大嘅意思係咪使唔使再大啲？即係依家係 OK 㗎啦嘛 ？OK 㗎嘛 ？OK 㗎嘛？好大回音。 個咪近啲個人，喂！我戴耳機㗎，我冚唔到㗎。依家應該係最近㗎啦，我諗。Decall 啦 新手流應該係 Charles
Yeah, I like that play pretty. It was a pretty good play. I think.
其實我應該裝翻個咪咯，但我個咪未裝，有少少回音算啦。
Turning the tides a little bit by getting that sword stance off. He's already so far behind in this game.
回音我覺得係因為我推得太高。
Keep cycling back and forth. Get rid of all these boosts and Incineroar.
咗，但我冇 Skype 喎，師兄。我教翻88啦，可能好啲。含住咗個咪我又想睇比賽啊！喂，FFD Call 可以用 Web 版㗎，上網即係網頁版。
No damage dealt on Augustine's side, and really good usage of switching in those Intimidators to keep that Excadrill from getting too scary on Ryota's side.
Yeah, you know, Ryota had a really great lead, and he's basically been matching Augustine's plays the last couple of turns. He's been playing really safe, but there's no need to play aggressive when you have such a good lead matchup, and the first turn goes nearly perfectly. So the taunt there does stop potential Trick Room, and that's definitely something you have to worry about from Mega Gardevoir.
FF 你要開住真正嗰個 Twitter 嗰邊嗰個同我講直播先可以追到個速度喎。咁我依家講住先啦，雖然我咩都唔知道。咁依家啱雷雲又再喐呢個醒兵打落個水牛度啦。咁依家咧就呢個龍頭地鼠又使出呢個疑似地set嘅嘢啦，係啦，係大家都熟悉嘅地龍哮天大終結啊！咁佢打落邊隻度咧？係冇錯，係打落火貓度嘅。咁佢因為一擊即中咧，好 FF 安咗啦。咁我揾下 FF 先。
And sometimes you have to see the Assault Vest variant, so still takes a ton of damage there, but the cycling of Intimidates have made his Excadrills doing significantly less. And of course, Thunderous is also kind of on a timer because it's taking so much Life Orb recoil every turn.
Yeah.
So, you know, Ryota hasn't really been able to get too much damage off these last couple of turns, but he's basically been able to position himself into a much better spot. And, you know, one thing you sometimes have to worry about from Thunderous is a potential Grass Knot, but we've seen Hidden Power, we've seen Quads, most likely Thunderbolt and Protect. Scoutshot probably pretty safe right now. Really nice switch in and a great Pokemon to bring into this matchup.
Yeah, interesting positioning here because with the chip damage from the Tectonic Rage onto Incineroar, Excadrill loves being paired alongside that Flying-type Thunderous. Could be able to fire off some Earthquakes here, but instead going to retreat in favor of Tyranitar. So Augustine really making sure that he's going to be able to get into a position where he has Sand up and Excadrill is still healthy. Another hidden power coming out from the Thunderous into the Incineroar, hoping to catch a Landorus on the switch in. Not going to be enough. It's a knockout, actually. The Sand would have picked it up too, but Incineroar wants to finish that off after all those hidden powers.
喂，聽到啦，聽到啦。
喂，
聽到。
聽到啊，
聽到啊。
睇下個 channel 入邊有冇我把聲先得。
好，應該有嘅，我諗。你依家係睇緊直播嗰邊㗎嘛？
I think right now, if Augustine wants a chance of winning, he does finally have like the extra draw insanity. It is able to outspeed everything. It's just like if it gets intimidated too much, it's just
係啦，咁啊係得個 channel 都見到啦。咁冇啊，你可唔可以俾條 link 我？
你停！
即係
我要係離開全屏幕先。我開翻全屏幕。俾咗啦，俾咗條 link 啦。
It's going to be a lot more difficult to take care of. So,
而家係打緊第
1咯，係啊，啱啱開始啫嘛，咁估唔到你咁夜翻屋企。
應酬啫。不過今晚打到聽朝6點喎。
係啊，講到差唔多啦，講得幾多？
時間夜晚打，搞到都睇唔到幾多場。 係你朝頭早再補翻，慘。
好多決賽係夜晚打，即係10點鐘。
係啊，決賽個時間都仲可以睇到直播嘅。
但係好似
佢哋呢個係BO1 嘅啫
BO3 啊？嚇，唔係全部 BO3 嘅咩？
哇！啱啱嗰度中間寫住 Switch One Run 啊嘛。
One One。咁依家第一場 Switch 嘅第一場啊嘛，瑞士仔第一場。
咁啊，內雙你知唔知佢係兩位選手嘅來歷啊？
左面嗰個係上年個冠軍。 右邊嗰個唔知喎，右邊嗰個乜水啊？
識啊！不過佢依家好似比較劣勢喎，右邊嗰位選手，因為佢嗰個沙隊咧都俾人壓制住嘅情況喎。你譬如用海牛啊，其實都好難，沙隊都好難拆個海牛啦。
冇錯啊，其實仲有我睇翻佢係灰色咗2隻，其實應該係得翻2隻嘅啫，但睇翻個日本選手其實4隻都齊晒喎。
因為佢 Mega 報榮員喺呢個時候已經死咗嘅時候咧，就其實呢場我見係冇乜機會㗎啦。
係咯，其實
打落去都冇傷害嘅。嗰招係打咩 Osh？
呢個時候其實只要日本選手捱過個風沙，其實就可以派超人女王出嚟啊，放高音消滅佢哋㗎啦。
不過鋼鼠又難講嘅，但係唔緊要啊。鋼鼠就算劍冇咗，都做唔到啲咩，除非佢有高速移動嘅啫。
好難講啊！你都知尋日隻天蠍王又有高速移動，又有劍冇㗎啦。
你呢個單打配置嚟嘅。
好啦，我哋又睇到，不過其實班吉拉嗰支係咩嚟㗎？
咁好似60攻嘅樂系技能嚟。
惡意追擊啊，係咪？
唔係，佢好似
必中啊嘛，佢之後。
中技唔緊要，我而家查查，唔係，係啦，自己受過傷害之後，威力增加咗2倍。
哦，嗰啲咩報仇啊，類似咁嘅嘢。
咁樣啦，物理60攻擊咯。
咦，飛翻問我哋係用緊，買我哋用緊 Deco 啊？係咪讀 Deco 其實？Deco
咁佢上下嘅嘢啦。
咁如果隻海牛有呢個熱湯嘅話，打落去 burn 咗呢度贏㗎咯。
但係都唔需要嘅，即係4拳難，2拳難敵4手啊嘛。
的確嘅，除非可以降頭，
但係你打落去都殺佢唔死啊！即係證明佢本身攻擊力真係唔係點都好高啦。
仲要命中埋添，要開。
好似我淨係睇咗一半啦，好似打得幾順利喎。
有個學生妹啊，
係有個學生，係。
佢着住咗我想買嗰件衫啊！
見唔到啊個外套。
冇啊，燒包話冇晒貨啊！
你有冇喺出邊條 link 貼我哋條 link 啊？
有啊，
係我見阿嚴巴佢有個
咩啊？俾我 YouTube 嗰條啊嘛。食蕉話聽 Aaron 講嘢都唔講，我哋聽我哋。飛巴係咪想講啊？其實我見到佢笨。
Yeah, I think in terms of adjustments, if you're Augustine, maybe you just One of the main issues in that last game was that the sand wasn't set up until towards the end of the game. And then by that point, like Excadrill already just wasn't able to do enough, and then suddenly like you've already lost so many resources where you really can't do much more afterwards. I
think 對佢哋兩隊有咩感覺咧
？Two intimidators, and we saw the Landers immediately, and Landers was here for the most part against Augustine's team. But the Gardevoir was just so strong.
啦，咁首先日本選手嗰邊啦，就女王加呢個前跑克虎咁樣嘅組合啦。我覺得佢呢個組合嘅對應性係高好多嘅，即係頭獸黑住魚隊啦，咁今次打沙隊都幾好嘅作用啦。咁又有啲速攻手啊，再加埋好。即係譬如話火電鬼呢啲都係比較 meta 性嘅 Pokemon 嚟，即係佢係只要反 meta 嗰種感覺。
其實依家 meta 係咩？
見個鬼佬咧，就佢係主要真係沙隊啦。見到皮皮都係為咗沙隊而輔助嘅一隻精靈嚟㗎嘛。
嗰隻皮皮唔係拎嚟放肚皮鼓跟住 follow me 嘅咩？
點解
肚皮鼓啊？
馬里路嚟咯，招包老婆喎。
play overly aggressive in that first game, and he was able to win pretty comfortably.
即係你馬里路嚟自我暗示。
你隻皮皮嘅作用唔係 follow me 跟住隻馬里路嚟肚皮鼓咩？
啱，但係佢亦都可以俾沙隊做 support 嘅啫嘛，即係佢主要 support 型啦，即係佢主要係做戰術嘅。我嘅意思係，俾人拆咗咧，就可以頭先咁樣見到變咗一面倒嘅情況。
好啦，我哋依家睇到大家都威嚇大家。然後兩邊都有零售，但係睇個勢應該係日本選手依邊比較有優勢多啲。
首先最重要嘅步行員食咗下威嚇啦，咁啊步行員真係打手嚟㗎嘛，反而地雲呢邊佢又有啲干擾技嘅，我諗應該有岩風啩。頭先有出咗咩招啊？冇睇到啊！
地震咯，重返咯，應該都係依兩招嘅啦。
偏向防守型嘅地狗啊，定係真係集中於攻擊性？
因為我都冇睇到，啱啱加住搞 YouTube。
人員呢一下俾人降咗攻咧，咁佢真係要選擇強化啊，定係換出啊，定係點樣嘅？
喺地狗係直接
首先係地狗換走，
佢再食多次威嚇。
所以如果步行員而家換走咧，就最賺嘅。但係睇地狗換走先，即係代表步行員冇換走啦。
直接 mega 進化應該諗住龍母喎。但係其實佢隻特攻型咧？
咁又係有可能啦。嘅話咁對於沙羅朵更加有優勢啦。你下一波可以打咗出嚟啊！
都唔係好痛。
打落去沙羅朵就真係唔係好痛。
10萬伏咗打落嚟。
都頂得順。
好啦 ，high power 可唔可以一嘢秒咗啊 Commander 咧？好似係一。
如果唔得就唔好攞沙羅朵出嚟啦。沙羅朵嘅價值就喺呢度㗎啦嘛。
好啦，咁我哋首先殺咗隻打手。
鬼佬嘅難打啦。
好難講呢個情況。如果依個時候拎隻馬里路嚟，拎隻馬里路嚟出嚟，跟住電暈10萬伏嘅沙內朵咧，咁啊有安全肚皮鼓啦。 咦唔係喎，但係火貓啱出嚟就有 fake out 喎。
啱先換出嚟嘅啫喎，火貓。
係啊，咪有可以 fake out 咯今晚。
咪少見咗特工牛搏交，其實應該多見而家。比較難估佢係特工定默工咯，因為就咁睇陣咧都唔係太清楚，唔係好估得到。而且你估錯咗嘅時候，對自己都幾傷。譬如頭先日本呢邊嘅選手，佢諗住兩下威下攻咁啊，梗係好啦，但係雖係特工。
可能係雙刀流咧，可能啱啱第一場見到佢用默攻招，唔係因為 high power 打咁少咧。
係啦，不過沙攞嚟當秒報人員都好正常嘅。
即係我只係波曼打嘅 high power 打得太少。
阿 boys，
咁超能女王應該俾人降頭殺㗎啦。誒地震喎，
地震好啲，順便可以打啲傷害落去火貓度，
火貓直死埋。
一隻會係大家出最後嗰隻出嚟咯喎。
阿登塔巴話，即係係咪煙肉啊？煙肉話呢個佢第一場都係沙內朵 high power 殺報榮譽咯。
啊，雙刀報榮譽啦，雙刀係好處係真係唔係太驚威嚇嘅，但係對於配個努力值嗰度又係比較麻煩咯，特別係速度嗰方面。
跟住我哋依家又見翻同樣嘅情況啦。
個場都見到咁樣嘅 case 喎。
係咯。咁其實依家
唔同嘅時候係日本呢邊少咗兩隻啦。
咁龍頭地鼠係有招地石嘅，咁我睇可唔可以一夜殺咗隻海牛獸啊？
咁唔得啦，佢未見冇之前嘅龍頭地鼠其實真係唔係好高攻擊力㗎啦。
咁到底有冇可能可以用鋼頭係咁挾隻地狗咧？再加岩崩？
係。
選下保護。
龍頭地鼠仲有保護先。
佢速喎！哇！
有料到喎！
冰埋就好玩啦。
冇冰啊，但係呢個 set 打咗出嚟啦，打咗喺邊度咧？龍頭地鼠度啊！如果咁樣嘅話，呢個地石。
究竟呢隻係特攻型嘅班吉拉咧？
打落龍頭地鼠頭先應該彈咗個減4分1嗰句嘢出嚟。本來係我喺度受上大地之力落去龍頭地鼠啦。有呢個勝局㗎啦，我諗。
可惜啊！如果頭先龍頭地鼠打埋落地狗嗰度就應該就有反勝嘅機會。
你諗下，咁龍頭地鼠實死嘅喎，喺呢個 case， 第4倍嘛。
誒係咩？佢唔係降地咩？點會第4倍咧？
總之打得死啦！呢下大地之力係啦。咁你得翻隻班吉拉嘅時候，你係咪真係打得死個海牛獸咧？
好難講喎，我哋見到班吉拉係特攻型嚟喎。
冇錯啊，咁佢有冷凍光速啦，有頭先嗰招打咩 os 啦。我諗佢對招一係有地係嘅招，
有草繩結㗎，我想問班吉拉。
哇！我都未見過配草星招嘅班吉拉，我懷疑佢識唔識添。
佢而家睇緊，睇下有咩草招。
情況下，我諗佢打唔贏海牛獸，而且海牛獸仲可以回血嘅喎。
係喎，有 recover。係冇㗎，係一招草招都冇，除咗繩草之外。
咁就算有醒草都打唔到啦。我而家先見到你個 channel 有2隻超能貓啊，好可愛啊！
為你而家㗎。我哋依家我哋 BO 唔係瑞士制第一場咧就已經圓滿結束啦，咁就係由上屆冠軍唔知乜水啊，又贏咗第一場嘅，咁唔知我哋第2場會唔會見到燒巴可以上直播咧？
先燒巴有冇贏咗第一場先？
我哋等緊佢消
息。台下我哋後台嘅工作人員發俾我哋嘅消息啊。
燕巴咧，燕巴。
其實佢哋呢個場都好似靚過舊年，光猛過舊年喎。舊年個場都幾啱。
Especially earlier on, it's not necessarily the worst, right? Because you can look at
what you've done better. 射住晒。
Maybe could have made some adjustments in terms of team.
今年嘅主題係咩啊？我見到全部都拎住啲吉他啊、樂器啊，好有阿羅拉風 feel。
啲主題都係跟翻佢搞呢個比賽嘅地區，因為一定係日本唔係美國㗎啦。咁但係佢唔同嘅地區會有唔同主題。今次我諗係啲。有啲民族風嗰種嘢啩，我未有機會去美國。邊次燒巴嗰啲有得每年去一次啊？台下觀眾嘅消息啊，燒巴1-0啦已經。
咁快有消息？我見到啦，燒巴1-0咁啊
！1-0係一個好消息啊！其實今次香港仲有啲咩人打？
本身有 Voicer 啦。
除非有另外一個叫 Voicer 嘅人出現咗喺賽場啊，
拎人哋本 passport 咪得咯，呢啲嘢係咪先？
咯可係啊？點解冇咁做嘅？
唔知啊，好似話退出咗 Pokemon 界啊嘛，嗰個人。
冇啦，總之係比較複雜嘅情況。
頭先 ，IFung 今年有冇去咧？嗱，我知有小軒啦，有Mr. Miss Pay 啦，有 IFung 啦，係啊，暫時有呢幾個。
咦？鹽包好似話有7。幾個人喎？5、6、7個人咁上下。
風律你好，風律你好。見到風律入咗嚟。
鄉村音樂之都。所以就好多呢啲咁嘅鼓啊、查啊、啲吉他仔啊。呢啲地方有咩玩呢？
喂，我哋睇到個好精彩嘅畫面啦，有一隻由2015玩到依家嘅地狗，
我諗玩到2046都得嘅喎。
首先2046仲要有 Pokemon 出啦。
呢隻嘢真係萬金油嚟嘅，佢完全係嗰啲做主力咧就肯定唔得㗎啦。但係佢完全係一個潤滑劑。佢首先個活性好啦，威嚇啦，種族值又好啦，600族之餘，面都係非常好嘅。真係冇乜理由唔加佢嘅呢啲感覺咯。
好，我哋由 FF 翻譯翻呢句日文啦。
初戦は絶対に勝たないといけないと思ってたので、すごい緊張しましたが、勝ててよかったです。
第一戰係一定要贏嘅。
There's a lot of matches today, and as a defending champion, he wanted to actually win the first round for sure. So he was really nervous, but he's very happy that he won this.
非常之驚啊，但係又非常之開心啊。
In your play, and you came out on top in the match. Do you feel like that was an easy match, or was there some difficult things about it?
割と自信のあるような感じにも見えまして、マッチとしては結構なんて言うんでしょう。
FF 如果俾你上去打世界賽，你需唔需要一個翻譯咧？
それともちょっとやはり難しい点もあったのか。
睇情況嘅，咁通常都要有個翻譯好啲嘅。你唔見人哋嗰啲總統走在人哋國家，就算識聽英文都會揾個翻譯講嘅咩？緊要係講錯咗就唔好啦。GC 加一位 TCG。
There's one more Pokemon I want to talk to you about. There's a picture of you praying to a Pokemon that everyone wanted to show me. Tell me about your special relationship with that Pokemon.
佢唔知邊隻圖啊？係咪流氓惡啊？我記得佢上年用流氓惡係贏咗冠軍，就係用流氓惡贏冠軍啊！
サーナイトは昔から世界大会で使っているポケモンで、自分にとっては本当に勝利の女神でありまして。
你嘅女神沙奈朵喎，佢話。我練到咩甲面？
我就聽到勝利女神啫。有燒巴、小軒、TL、Miss Pay、Oscar、Alpha 同埋Junior 陳山。
Well, just one more question. As defending champion, how confident are you
我
that
知
you
邊
can
個
come
Junior
out
陳
on
山
top
啊？
as world
嗰
champion
個
by the end of this?
面都幾好啊，都係好傳統嘅陣容。
喂，有冇人知道燒巴今年用邊6隻去打？
我講過喎，可能真係要去到會真係佢上陣嘅時候先知啦。
唔知道下場會有燒巴粉呢？咁啊精彩啦，有燒巴。喂，唔見 Voice Sir，Voice Sir 呢啲時候應該會無啦啦走出嚟。
出嚟啦！咁而家大家都喺度，其他 GG 咗，咁慘啊！
其他咁快慘敗。FF 有你最中意嘅精靈喎。
邊度啊？睇唔到嘅，出人貓咧喺邊啊？
右中間嗰隻啊！
好空白嘅喎，中間嗰兩架。
揸住棍嗰兩隻啊！
畫面同我，你個畫面同我畫面係咪有啲唔同啊？
嗱，依家有4隻，係少咁隻喎，應該仲有隻卡珀利亞斯。
佢叫你 control 你嘅場地啊，咁都係嘅。今次100嘅其中一個好重要嘅要點係個場地嘅，場就見唔到大家喺度爭場地嘅畫面。
咦，頭先嗰場係直頭冇場地嘅發生，
會見到多啲嘅。佢有隻 Coco 嘅，但冇攞出嚟啦。對住沙隊點攞 Coco 啊？
好啦，威嚇寵係有依3隻，你而龍係咪真係有咧？咁你不如擺埋波曼達上去啦。
波曼達，你龍我都覺得有，可能唔多人用，但係攞得出嚟。
你踩影啦，
嗰隻就係劍不英啦，
即係 UB 啦，依4隻
最底嗰啲 UB。
咁你仲有人用女石嘅咩？
E 嘅話都係比較戰術向嘅嘢嚟喎，會唔會上到世界賽嘅？睇睇係咪真係有嚟用？
有 chat room， 跟住有
4隻。
踢咗邊啦？
其實 Mimikyu 真係俾人低估㗎 ，Mimikyu 放 chat room 係非常強嘅一隻嘢。
但係好多龍頭地鼠咧，依家一個破格
都係得30% 機會可以阻佢開 chat room 嘅啫喎。
喂，一個鋼頭破格破去畫皮一嘢死喎！
係咪真係咁多破格龍頭地鼠啊？我好懷疑啦。
好難講呢啲事情。
學個作用唔太大咯，如果淨係想針 Mimikyu 嘅話。
今年最受歡迎嘅7隻 Mega 寵啊！
係駱駝啊，火駝獸。
係唔計上面嗰隻，我講緊下面嗰7隻。
係咪今年最受歡迎嘅7隻 Set Wolf 寵咧？
應該係啦。有雷色嘅 Coco 啦，超色嘅 Lily 啦，岩色嘅巴格拉，雷色嘅雷鳥啦，鬼色嘅鬼劍，唔知乜色嘅火貓，同埋一定係龍母色嘅呢隻叫咩龍啊？
鱗甲龍啊。
係鱗甲龍。Spotlight 喎。最強 Follow Me 寵，
咁佢喺下面都貼埋啲 counter 俾你睇喎，話噴火龍啊、巨金怪啊或者暴榮源都係 counter 嚟嘅，屬性上都係嘅，但係俾佢 follow me 到，就算 counter 到都係唔係啩咁。
噴火龍有熱風嘅，咁都可以話係 counter
特工龍咯。
係啦，咁最大重點就係頭先嗰隻巨金怪嘅思念頭槌會 miss 嘅，所以就係一個比較危險嘅事情。
覺得會 miss， 所以甚至唔落思念頭槌都係一種玩法嘅。
好，我哋又見到阿 Cherry 出翻嚟啦。
隻火蜥蜴，順豐嘅火蜥蜴係咪依家仲多唔多嘅咧？
哇！呢一層就真係要繼續睇下先知喎。你都知道呢啲唔研究 meta 㗎。
佢作為一個順豐，
見到呢個跳舞龍啦。
係啊，跳舞龍，佢麻煩之處都係一嚟佢跳咗舞之後，佢壓制力好高啦；二嚟係佢跳咗舞特攻同物攻都幾高嘅時候咧，你就算燒傷佢啊，或者用啲辦法降佢嘅特攻，但係你都未必可以篤中。
冇錯，同埋佢有3個特性。
3個特性通常都唔好難搏佢邊個特性㗎啦。
有我哋100年之神
好正嘅潛行。好正，好勁嘅潛行阿富，
我覺得都好勁。
俾咗個威嚇佢之後，真係有少少做壞咗。
其實應該大家用翻鳳神犬咯，點可以用隻貓嘅啫？有老虎，即係鳳神犬起碼叫係傳說寵物小精靈啊！俾隻貓打到咁。
當初急凍鳥、雷鳥、火鳥側邊就係鳳神犬㗎啦。
係咯。我哋睇到話 Blue 小氣他布喎，
動畫入邊啊？
唔係我睇 game 啲人話佢一個木錘打爆咗超市啊嘛。
咁你動畫入邊嗰集都唔係小氣嘅，佢貪瞓啫，懶瞓啫。
動畫我只係 Lily 係復刻咯，我唔知點解我冇睇過。
係啊。
不過好似講動畫好似已經係就快打沙加老大喎。
動畫而家個進展都幾快啦，所以打埋呢個光輝大神之後，唔知會打啲咩咧？即係如果唔入 Let's Go 篇嘅話，咁即係會唔會新門仲有1年播咧？
我覺得新門應該會轉去關東咯。
都會知道答案，
因為我想知佢依家去咗島3未？之前好似話佢直接跳咗去島4啊嘛，未去島3噶嘛。佢最後有冇去翻？
去咗啦，島3。
去咗啦。咁其實食
呢個島主一齊玩過啦咩？
豬啊！島主
話中間遇到惡係島主，嗰個唔係島主，個叫
哦。跟住隻喵喵怪，火箭兵同隻喵喵怪搞嗰啲喵怪，
咪島3咯。
仲有1分鐘就可以睇。
反而島4冇乜劇情㗎嘛。
島4本身就冇咩劇情啦，除非佢打嗰條世界樹啫。
島4嗰啲劇情簡直係懶啊！
根本就係偷工減料。
偷工減料，前嗰幾個島都 OK，一入到島4咧，得翻一條村都唔緊要啦，側邊成個都係個荒漠，擺啲訓練員俾你喺度行下打下。
係啦，連
個島主仲要 USUM 幫佢加氣添，
仲要 UB 係住喺個離島度，唔係嗰隻島神係住喺離島度。
係咯。
好啦，我哋可以睇第2場啦。會唔會見到燒巴咧？
MV 咁樣嘅嘢啫。
係啊，次次都係咁。
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the 2018 Pokemon World Championship.
呢除咗比卡超之外，係咪冇第二隻公仔啦？
好似燒巴型嘅。
哇！你唔覺隻草蛇好可愛咩？
冇垃圾咯，真係。
嗰啲不嬲都冇㗎啦。呢個騰騰蛇好可愛喎。
我見到佢有隻正電拍拍加負電拍拍嗰隻好愛啲喎。
Yeah, it's been a great time already in Nashville, but more than that, we've already seen some amazing.
今年比卡超算整得幾靚呢個造型，我都中。
我覺得佢今年啲商品都幾靚，佢件衫真係好靚。
咪一下清晒貨咯。呢個巴話，
其實我想買佢嗰個袋。
捉翻料咯，即係啲人嘅劇情好多咗啲嘢嘅，但係你中唔中意嗰個劇情又另計啦。
冇咗同莉莉亞一齊避雨嗰個劇情已經係要負評啦。
仲負評爆佢咩
？Yeah, looking forward to that for sure. Just to give everyone.
覺得係威係勢拎火箭兵彩虹火箭兵團嚟做宣傳賣點。啊，點知真係打完佢哋就冇㗎咯喎。
係啊，佢入邊佢嗱，首先個地圖，你其實諗翻真，佢個地圖有幾多格啫？幾多版地圖啫？然之後左右同埋上面啦咁講啦，嗰度好慳料啫嘛，背景黑蚊蚊咁樣，我用 RPG Maker 都整到啦，打呢個火箭兵團，左路其實都係打下就算㗎。
係啊，我係打嗰度打到眼瞓。
之前幾個宿敵打完。
點解
叫做彩虹火箭兵團？我以為佢至少好似以前人哋啲火箭兵團殘黨，你會佔領座電波塔，唔係佔領間屋仔。嗰間屋仔咁細。
如果係彩虹火箭兵團係咩？係好似四天王咁打就好啦，即係直接打大佬，仲要打兵仔咯。跟住喺無限
或者好似係咯，好似 BW 咁樣打打下四天王，突然間闖入嚟，我覺得個震撼感都大啲。依家只不過係笠咗個電子世界，俾人老笠咗個間屋仔，咁而家主角走去搞掂佢。我覺得成個格局好細咯，
支線嚟根本就唔可以話係劇情。
如果佢真係整大啲嘅話，佢就應至少將一個城鎮，我唔期望佢成個地圖畫晒，一兩個城鎮，俾佢見到有啲破壞咗嘅感覺，擺翻啲火箭兵團喺條路上面行下都好啊。
真係垃圾 game。仲要唔修復個原港，仲要拎原港嚟做劇情。
等19年啦，19年嘅新作。咁不過 Let's Go 嘅話，你期唔期待啊？內商
Let's Go 就真係，我睇佢會唔會有超過151嘅精靈存在先啦。因為依家有人有透露咧，電擊怪
佢話會有一隻新精靈啦。
唔係啊，佢話即係初代有進化嘅精靈咧，即係電擊怪啊、鴨嘴火龍呢啲可能係會有進化嘅存在。即係佢係呢個初代151加初代可以再進化嘅精靈咯。
都多啲精靈選擇嘅，
淨係伊貝都多咗7隻啦，多咗4隻，5隻，係咪4隻、5隻、6隻
就係人伊貝、月伊貝、冰伊貝、草伊貝、絲伊貝
5隻，可能仲加埋隻新嘅伊貝。
依行伊貝啊，傳聞係。
係咩伊貝話？
依行
飛行啊！
我覺得係
普通係伊貝，再咩
好啦啩？好啦啩？你咁樣搞唔好啊！真係唔好。
我哋見到一隻
伊貝自己咩格進化？
咁比卡超都可以咩格進化啦？
你咁樣好難讀㗎，對戰嘅時候，你要讀佢究竟咩㗎，定係開 set 技強化喎？你一讀錯，好嚴重㗎個後果。
直接近身拳打落去啦！
咗之後個特性啊，或者係點樣嘅精靈啊。
哇！真係好少見比卡超用呢個終極伏特狂女使喺遊戲入面。
所有 C move 都唔啱比卡超用，就連佢自己嘅專用 set 都唔啱佢用。
佢速步 One Two 小軒對 Oscar， 香港大戰香港。
哎呀，咁快要內戰嘅話，有啲，唉，太早內戰好似唔係咁好。
係咯，去到大家都5-0嗰陣先內戰先好咯。
仲好咩？多元化啲，你指咩多元化啲啊？飛法？set 技啊，比卡超嘅 set 技啊，我覺得佢全部 set 技都唔掂喎。
我覺得佢全部 set 技都係廢。
個效果好似幾好咁，但係佢自己唔可以帶電喐啊嘛。
我覺得最有用嘅 set 係阿羅拉女超嘅 set 技。
強制人哋麻痹啊！
That doesn't work. It still gets the damage through protect and thus also the added effect of the move. So the only way you could block it is by having 2 fairy type Pokemon out in the field, which is not an option for most teams. Yeah, it's
其實都希望佢一路可以加多啲唔同嘅變化落去嘅。我之前都講過啦，我自己個人希望佢每隔幾個月整啲 patch 咁樣嘅，或者修正下啲不時啦，或者係有啲技能太強，或者有啲技能太強，改弱翻少少幾好啊！其實每4個月做一次嘅話，咁成個又吸引好多新人嚟玩噶嘛，都會。
好啦 ，FF 你而家見到我哋 Key 嘅 item 係咩啊？咁你覺得邊一種 item 係最冇用嘅咧？喺 Pokemon 世界入邊？
今日連登嗰個 pose 啊，最冇用我一開始講咗啦，浮石咯，
浮石都有用喎，即係你草繩結打嗰隻大藍蛇度，你大藍蛇裝輕石就冇咗好多攻擊力㗎。
藍蛇生存落去又點啊？佢本身嘅特性你唔係唔記得啊嘛？
堅硬啊！
我諗就算有輕石，佢都係確意嘅啫。
好難講啊！
冇輕石都係確意嘅啫。
不變之石，咁不變之石都係紅線都係啦。
雖然戰鬥入邊冇用，但係喺對戰外有用，我覺得係有用嘅道具嚟嘅。浮石真係冇用喎，浮石除咗賣錢之外冇好用㗎喎，你冇可能裝佢嘅，冇一隻裝咧食。我喺度裝佢，你有粒石頭，你又裝紅寶石，唔好裝粒浮石啦。爭咁遠。
如果下年打世界賽，我將佢浮石師嘅古拉都應該都幾有創意嘅。
石都冇出過場就死咗啦。裝咗浮石啊！
點解今年
係都出隻沙漠蜻蜓裝隻假石啦？
可以裝㗎，而家都裝阿卡珀利亞斯個 mega 石落去，可以進化做 mega 地龍啊嘛。
Activating that barrier unnecessarily, and like you said, Sandstorm interesting in both directions. Where sometimes interesting if you.
究竟幾時先開始玩圖？明明有知情人士已經話要打咯。
準備㗎嘛？你知道我哋平時打比賽咧，坐喺個台度有時都坐好耐㗎。有啲其他選手舉手話未得，練緊。
未得，唔記得單規矩啊！唔記得單烏。
S 嗰個連線嘅品質係比較差嘅，大家呢個知道嘅事實嚟。
垃圾原講。
垃圾原講。
我有17蚊睇緊啊！我台第一次有咁多人。
a lot of complex formats. I think in a lot of different ways, the last 3 years have kind of all
少㗎啦嘛，我覺得轉播世界賽有時都即係我見人哋貼啲轉播都可以吸到好多人。最緊要係 Pokemon
貼咗上連登啫嘛，連登都冇人上嘅。
咁
如果我貼落去嗰個咩 Pokemon 邊種 item 最冇用嗰個鋪，可能會多啲人入嚟睇。貼落主鋪就冇人睇。
Yeah, and we have seen some of our favorite items from the past return
不過 post
as
仲有人
well.
講
We
嘢咩？
already saw
睇下先。
always going to be popular.
知就冇咯噃，我入38分鐘前咯。
誒有我最中意嘅 Sidekick Seed 喎。
On the Thunderous Therian form, just getting a little bit of extra damage.
Yeah, I'd love to see Life Orb again. It's kind of been a while since we've seen a whole lot of it in competitive play. That damage boost it has is great if you're going to get a bunch of different attacks.
嗰個鋪已經變咗我哋 Pokemon 小圈子嘅對話。
嗰個不嬲都話冇，我哋冇小圈子，真係冇小圈子。我哋嗰個 post 係好歡迎大家入嚟。覺得其實我見好多巴打入嚟都可以同我哋打成一片嘅。
係啊，除非
幾人有小圈子，我自己都會出聲話唔好搞小圈子。我覺得搞咗小圈子人就會少咗新人入嚟玩㗎啦。
啱啊！新人除咗講官嘅我會屌佢之外，其他我都唔會屌㗎。
大家互相幫助嘛。
喂，世界賽配報有音樂先至拎喎。哎呀，早知我叫燒巴幫我拎啦，頂！
有啦，風律咪俾咗餅帶燒巴咯。
頂！我冇喎，喊出嚟。
我都冇。因為通常呢啲世界賽，舊年好似係椰蛋樹啊。
椰蛋樹啲垃圾。
有椰樹收。咁就嗰個舊年特別啲嘅，先至就都特別嘅。
火星都話小圈子啊，新人。
錯覺啫，錯覺啫。你唔可以啫，唔好覺得係小圈子，佢又唔係小圈子嚟。
You've got to have to manage your terrain, you got to manage the weather, you got to keep all these abilities in mind. But the effects of terrain perhaps is even bigger than weather is, where you don't always see a Pokemon that can.
咁 FF 有對呢個 Pokemon Let's Go 有咩睇法？佢冇超人貓喎。
將超能貓放埋一邊先。我本身都好中意黃版嘅，咁佢重製黃版我都覺得開心嘅。但係佢用咁樣嘅方式嚟重製咧，我就覺得有少遺憾咯。即係一嚟高，佢即係太過希望拉到高嗰啲人嚟玩啊。咁佢個方式同即係捉重，然之後冇咗呢個最 general 嘅對戰咧，就唔係太吸引到我。雖然玩我仍然係會玩。有機之後會多啲元素啦，我而家希望。
哇！聽聞好似冇咗特性嘅存在啦，咁冇咗特性嘅存在，你覺得邊隻精靈係會稱霸呢個151嘅世界咧？
你咁講真係得151隻啦，會唔會有鐵甲暴龍括弧超降 Eva 超降 version 咁樣嘅嘢咧？
咁我覺得咁係 Mega 啦，超夢夢 Y 咯。
淨係有151隻嘅話。似以前嘅富迪可以稱霸，難諗。不過啟暴龍啊，或者鯉魚龍之類嗰啲，仍然都係上位嘅。
鯉魚龍係唯一隻151裏邊有惡系嘅精靈啊！如果唔計阿羅拉科嘅話。
阿羅拉科一次加咗好多隻惡系，
惡貓啦，爛泥怪啦，阿羅麗，
可能阿羅拉呢個地方比較險惡，所以佢哋都要進化做惡系嚟應對呢個情況啦。
仲有達哥啦，都有3隻喎，數下到。
計翻個比例。
咁如果 Let's Go 會唔會出新 Mac 㗎啦？之前有
特性，阿煙肉巴嘅講法。不過 Demo Play 又唔知係咪真係咁，因為佢始終冇官方咁樣講過有冇特性呢樣嘢。
始終玩開高啲人咧，冇特性嘅存在咧，你無啦啦拉佢哋入嚟又有特性咧，佢哋覺得好怪嘅。
佢真係用高嘅玩法嚟講咧，冇嘅可能性係有嘅。
其實我都係等緊下年電影會出乜嘢配布嘅啫。我覺得通常都係 Let's Go 嘅個配布係。
應該都係新嘅。
如果照規矩下年係超夢夢 remake 啊嘛，咁會唔會拎超夢夢咧？新嘅精靈會唔會就係超夢嘅退化咧，或者進化？
啊！人哋 DNA 精靈
可去退化。
你或者配報個破壞的遺傳子呢個道具俾我算啦。
破壞的遺傳
有冇用過破壞的遺傳子啊？
即係諗住超夢夢 Y 合做超夢夢 X， 跟住變咗超夢夢 Z 咁啊咯。
唔係嗰樣嘢，以前真係有呢粒道具㗎，將帶喺身度，一出嚟就即刻食嘅道具，自己攻擊力加2級，然之後自己混亂。
哦，呢個係金銀版先有嘅道具。
都俾人刪咗啫嘛。
將黃版嘅超夢夢傳上去呢個金銀咧，就會自動攜帶呢個道具㗎，隻超夢夢。
雖然係加咗2級係好屈機，但係混亂又好運氣性呢樣嘢，我諗唔會再出現嘅。
加2級喎，咁同圖圖犬黑洞有咩分別？
都會拉埋一齊咧，
都係玩運。
Pokemon 就係運 game 啦。
不過唔想佢係下集野戰都係咁。咁我覺得佢正傳嘅野戰應該會打返精靈嘅，我諗。
唔會嘅，我諗。如果正傳都會咧，我真係棄 game 㗎。
傳說中嘅 Wolfie。
都有啲巴打日本巴打咁樣，佢講咧，如果其實出 game 咧，分開2隻出都好啊，好似以前咁樣 GC 啊，有一隻係專貨對戰噶嘛。
哦，嗰隻咩？
咁你可以係，
我知邊隻。
而家你出高版唔緊要，隨你出，我攞嚟練精靈咯最多，但係對戰我哋用另外一個版本。
我知啊，我 DP 嗰陣即係 View 個年代都有玩嗰隻咩對戰擂台啊，類似咁嘅嘢。
我有覺得咁樣幾好係咯，點解咁型棍嘅
有咩㗎？咁如果燒巴上去會唔會有去雷超加柯波羅嗰個對片咧
？Kind of an established group of players who normally did well and won the tournaments, and I was one of the first ones to kind of break that mold. It took a lot of time to get there, and it took a lot of personal growth for me to get there as well. It wasn't just I kept doing the same thing over and over.
嗰部仲係年代久遠嘅 PS 嚟㗎。
So when I'm talking about my journey to like being a top trainer, I think kind of the overarching theme was I kept trying, even when I was disappointed with myself, even when it was frustrating, even when I lost, when I felt like I should win. I kept trying.
好啦，我哋為咗對新嚟嘅巴打係唔知道邊個係 Wolfie， 咁 FF 介紹下邊個係 Wolfie 咧？
一位好勁嘅人。
佢點勁法咧
？It sounds kind of weird, but I'm preparing the best. I'm playing a little bit, but I'm thinking about the team a lot. My all-time favorite Pokemon, it's tricky because I always really like Pokemon that I do well with competitively that are more unorthodox. So, for example, a Pokemon like Emboar, who I used in 2011, who hasn't seen a lot of competitive play since. But I think if I had to pick one right now, I'd probably say Chikorita, because that was my favorite when I was younger. I really have only had one.
我啱啱已經 Google 咗啦，咁我哋 Wolfie 就係95年出世嘅，由11年開始出道啊，係啊， 11年開始出道啦，咁就由11年出道就已經拎到 Regional 嘅第1名啦。跟住喺同一年嘅 World Champion 係拎第6嘅，跟住12年嘅就已經拎第2名啦。佢係咁寫噶啦，我唔知啊。咁一直
識拎出 Pokemon 係耶穌手啊嘛。
去到16年佢係拎咗第1名嘅。16年係咪就係
樣同而家個樣都幾大分別
？16年就係咪就係佢同燒巴打嗰年
田啊嘛。
係啦，大家睇到條片啦，佢拎第1名啊！16年，16年咧就係我哋嗰屆最黑人憎嘅戰鬥啦。咁嗰陣就有嗰啲咩速專、圖圖犬啊，
佢想實況台啊，所以整個 PV 俾佢。
咁如果佢第1場就輸咗，咁咪
遲早一定佢咧，輸咗咪輸咗咯，佢都照上㗎啦，應該啩。
係咯，
如果整咗段片咪嘥。
咁啱得咁巧，連續2個 World Champion 上台嘅。
咧真係睇唔出個年紀嘅。
哇！你睇下陣容先。
個 West 都係日本嘅選手嚟。
好 Ufi 嘅陣容。
翻落去嘅啲重。
有美納斯啦、地狗、老噴、子劍，我最愛嘅子劍啦，同 Lily 同埋班吉拉嘅。就咁睇嘅話咧，應該就係 Y 噴啊，跟住班吉拉就可能都係 Mega 啦。就咁睇嘅話，始終佢另外嗰2隻喺沙嘅時候都有加成啦。咁我哋睇翻另一邊，喂，有一隻比較神奇嘅精靈喎。
多謝先，中間呢個好正常嘅疊加巨金怪啦，咁下面又係捕形員呢啲好嘅 common 嘅精靈啦，不過右上角嗰隻呢隻狗啊，岩狗狗，岩狗狗括弧入。咁佢點樣用嘅咧？會唔會真係攞嚟開 set 技咧？我真係好少見到。係啊，清場地，但其實好少見到有人喺 VGC 嘅比賽賽場用呢招。
好啦，我準備拎翻張圖出嚟擋住佢個 set 技先。
多騎呢嘢應該唔會 block 嘅。
好啦，我哋就咁睇嘅話咧，美納斯出場嘅機會高唔高咧？因為佢始終對面就係得一隻威核手嘅啫，就係波曼達。好啦，係一個好 standard 嘅陣容啦，就係地狗加噴火龍啦。另一邊就係巨金怪加日狗，
呢個日狗狗。
咁其實依個時候噴火龍一定要換走嘅喎，
就叫月狗狗。
噴火龍唔換走嘅話，隨時俾佢岩招一嘢收皮。咁巨金怪其實都可以直接無腦輸出強化 something like that 啦。
呢個日狗狗啦，佢速度上係真係算係幾快嘅一隻岩係精靈嚟嘅，
但係好脆皮。
因為岩係大嘅岩係其實你數落都係一係發石飛龍啦，一係就係UB01啦，一係就係佢噶啦。噴火龍係比較尷尬咯，呢個處境。
係啦，如果我係日本仔咧，我依個時候會收埋日狗，掉隻 Lily 出嚟嘅。
日狗同化石飛龍比邊個會好啲咧？
化石飛龍有
龍上嚟都好用啲嘅。
哎呀！我哋見到啲好恐怖嘅事情發生。
唔知係讀到定係點樣？呢個美納斯出咗嚟啦，然之後
有打血球咧，係冇打血球嘅。呢隻係 X 噴嚟嘅喎。 哇，黑色啊！我補翻張圖先。
想象下呢隻係 X 噴嚟嘅，咁 X 噴就唔驚岩狗噶咯
喎。哎呦，嚟啦！
專用 set 你係咪有嘢遮啊？有嘢遮啊？
遮先，拎啲超能翻去遮先。
喂，有未啊？
喂，呢招係咩啊？
識嗌啊！我呢個咁少見呢招，點記得？
日狗衝擊波，佢睇唔到所有浮游炮準備瞄住 X 指條龍，打死！
變翻啦咯！
究竟會一騎 KO 咧係得嘅喎？
哇，好痛啊！就算咁硬嘅呢個噴火龍，下嘅威嚇都死咗喎。好啦，但係其實都仲有優勢嘅，地狗出翻嚟，咁始終依家又升咗2級特攻嘅美納斯，究竟佢會冰光啊、沙林啊、波曼達定係熱湯落隻狗度咧？呢個時候 最 key 嘅mega 重咧，你話優勢，我覺得50-50啦。美納斯唔係話一隻咁難處理嘅精靈嚟，因為佢真係得單體技嘅啫。
有凍風嘅其實。
凍風喺呢個情況，凍風都好用，
或者滑浪咯，滑浪。
Probably not going to be too concerned about the Pokemon that
咁我會將沙林咪換翻巨金怪上嚟嘅正常。但係冇換人咯。
佢隻狗度，然之後呢個都係想做翻個 switch 嘅。
嗱，假設對住 Wolfie 啲世界級選手，我會決定咩都唔先動，直接有得打就打。我 rock 晒嚟啦，會唔會 hit 咧？
但係呢個龍星群打落去，呢隻紫月劍我未必頂到嘅喎。
頂到，
得。
協咗啊！
協咗啊！
我哋又見到 Rockstar 嘅恐怖之處啦。嗱，我好記得 Wolfie
扣咗20幾血，但係
Wolfie 上年係咪俾人用狗尾係咁結冰到喊咗出嚟咧？我好似有啲咁嘅印象。
條友俾人係咁冰咯，係咪 Wolfie 我就唔係好記得。
好啦，沙倫換翻出嚟係換翻呢隻暴露菇嘅。咁其實對住呢啲選手其實都幾難打。
啱啱嗰隻報名完未 Mega 進化嘅嗬？
未啊，可能佢留翻巨金怪先 Mega。
咩意思？如果佢再換翻佢出嚟嘅時候，美納斯又喺場度嘅話，咁又好玩啊！
好啦，只見呢個時候要走啦，
搞掂隻美納斯先。凍風即係再4級嘅4倍凍風打落去步人員度，我諗都可以殺到。
除非背心嘅啫。
It's hard to imagine, again, that not only is it just Milotic now, but Kartana's probably going to need a beast boost to get through this game. So, maneuvering, do you go for it now?
好簡單，只要因為菇其實而家都幾難可以一嘢處理到隻菇嘅。
哎呀，頭先係用咗咩招啊？狗。哇！哎呀，居然係冇用憤怒粉喎！
喂，你處理唔到佢啊，使咩憤怒粉？
哦，原來係直接用睡眠拋子。
哇！咁你瞓咗之後，你嘅步榮員都仲係可以出嚟嘛？當然啦，可能呢個時候應該，因為最後一隻地狗嚟㗎嘛，你呢個放地金怪，佢金怪好似就唔係咁合理。
因為巨金怪有佢嘅特性啦，唔會俾人威嚇。
got 2 big knockouts, finished off the Kartana, got the one-hit KO on Charizard, and things are looking pretty bleak for Wolf here. He does get Landorus out against
問題係究竟美納斯係咩道具咧？
啱啊！佢之後再 switch 一次播完出嚟，幹地9攻。唔緊要啊，之後一齊殺咗個美納斯咁啩。
美納斯係咩道具咧？你覺得？佢依家唔係 leftover 啦，
唔係 left 係咯，唔係淨飯，
又唔係打協球喎。
對過啦，唔係打協球啦，咁或者係果實咯。
好啦，佢決定咗係 Mega 呢個巨咁怪嘅。
Partnered alongside with that Amogus can Rage Powder
真係想知嗰隻果然係咩道具
Going to be so safe there. Landor's actually showing it is a
大地之力特攻型地狗，都打到唔錯嘅傷害。
Ironhead from Mega Metagross dealing better damage back to Landorus.
咁照咁睇隻地狗係咩道具？大家都心目咩嗰4字成語？
一目了然。
係一目差唔多啦。
You don't have to worry about damaging your partner, which is nice here, but also there's not any way to prevent Metagross from knocking out Landorus over 2 turns.
All right, a Rage Powder again to redirect the Earth Power from.
都已經鎖咗一招啦。
Will be able to pick up the KO onto a. Oh, actually not able to pick up the KO.
怪殺佢。
究竟可唔可以用洞風咧？醒唔醒到咧？
Show you how it's done. Here's how you pick up a KO. Ironhead knocks out.
係醒到
嘅話，
洞風係中晒嘅。
係啦，呢個洞風打落去。
好啦，呢個時候好睇啦，沙利文被逼要出嚟啦。
美納斯又再加2級攻擊力啦。
咁巨金快過咗1級速快啲，定係美納斯快啲咧？我哋都好肯定係沙利文快啲㗎啦，呢個時候。哇，好恐怖啊！我見到隻
究竟係咩道具咧？
會唔會龍聲咧？佢有龍星群喎，但係佢已經用咗1次射技。
應該有咁嘅可能，但係睇緊個速度有冇睇到？
喺美納斯選擇用1次保護先喎，有用咩其實？佢想睇下個速度線先係咪啊？
嗱，你見到佢用龍仙群先過，
咁因為降咗1級速度嘛，佢咁怪。好啦，嚟啦，miss 咗嚟啦，睇下試驗頭緒會唔會 keep 啊？哎呀，洞風嚟啊！
呢個傷害都做唔到啲乜嘢啦。
睇下洞風咪1嘢秒收，嗱呢個時候用熱湯打落去就有可能。因為依家美納斯可能係直接快過佢咁怪㗎。但係點解？
傷害唔夠。你睇到洞風打落去巨金怪扣嗰個1cc， 洞風都有40攻啦。
熱湯打落去，葡踢點解咧？佢又唔係淨飯之類嘅物體。定係 Wolfie 又諗去用佢
勾殺巨金，
用佢最
而家係咪真係扮巨金怪？
係啊，有 recover 啊，但係有用咩 recover？我明啦，佢大果實，1/4果實。
調整翻個血量，
但係有啲難度喎。recover 多 PPD 定係試驗頭緒多 PPD？
個10一個10，但係當然大家升爆啦。
咁喺快過去嘅情況下用 recover 嘅話，睇佢試驗頭緒幾時 miss 咯。除非 CT 嘅啫。嗱，啱啱好。嚟啦！係果然係大果實，2下熱湯都死啦咁樣。除非 CT 嘅啫，
因為你速度線又快過佢。都殺
會唔會 burn 埋咧？ 哦，原來一下 KO 嘅。
佢自己都唔知其實，我見到啊 Wolfie 咯。
咁 Wolfie 都打翻個比較正常嘅保險啲嘅打法啫。好啦，我哋首先
睇咯喎。你咁樣其實你因為你讀唔到佢，你唔知道一下秒咗佢，所以你其實多咗風險。你直接打佢係零風險。
好啦，我哋見到 Wolfie 首勝啦。
咁個狀況下都贏翻轉頭。其實我見到喺中期仲係日本仔嗰邊去控制住個戰局嘅。
其實依家個 meta 嚟講，又有地狗又有火貓美納斯，其實真係一隻好有用嘅精靈。
即係你唔會驚對面冇威嚇咯。
係咯，仲要有沙林文喎，就算冇嗰兩隻都，
定有隻威嚇手係出唔出啫？
係啊。咁第二場嘅話，會點打呢？日本仔？飛巴話 miss 咗龍星群喺眼上，咁其實都
中嘅話咁，
中咗嘅話死咗㗎啦，美納斯其實。
P 就可以掌握到呢個位，即係咁少嘅勝機。
所以話Pokemon game 係100% 命中嘅技都唔好唔中，非100%。
非100%，你知道啦，我同你打富迪嗰個氣合肉，我到而家記住，連續 miss 咗4次。
係，我啲刀斷頭台係必中嘅，尋日剪2下都中。點打都中，70% 嘅技能點打都唔中，呢啲咩 game 嚟㗎？ 好啦，我哋見到係班吉拉岩狗對呢個地狗美納斯。
地狗個岩 set， 即係佢專用 set 啦，個威力啦。咁但係呢個 set 可唔可以一嘢秒到美納斯或者地狗咧？就應該唔得嘅，
因為威嚇咗一次。如果係我咧，美納斯第一彎即刻保護先啦。好明顯有自帶 follow me 嘅效果，依家時候。
日99咧個特升係咪
生爪
即係沙暴下加兩倍速？
好似係。不如指劍彈出嚟啊！咁快換翻隻直接簡單。
都可以簡直係零啊！
好 ，Icy Wind。都扣唔少喎，其實都扣到1%左右。
日99有火牙啦。
呢個時候 Katana 應該用 detect 㗎。咁究竟
硬狗㗎啦，因為佢有火牙。你雖然而家快過佢啫，你都要一定要處理咗佢㗎啦嘛。對手都應該知道。
所以我覺得佢會換翻隻地狗出嚟，跟住美納斯會用熱湯，跟住隻菇會帶走咗個熱湯啦。咦？直接 protect 喎，
我先嚟做一個 protect。咁唔通？
哎呀，我想係速轉子劍，但係速轉係落咗喺地狗度喎，咁點解可以咁大膽咧
？Turn 1 with both sides trying to get ahead, and now they're kind of in this strange stalemate where they're both trying to target the same Pokemon. They both need to trade protects there, where Lycanroc, we saw what it did last game.
咁呢回合好似大家冇乜點做到嘢啦，但係其實大家都定嘅嘢咯，兩邊都。
佢美納斯走啦，換地狗，但係點解唔可以指 咦？點會換地狗咧？真係唔怕火牙喎！又搏佢 miss 唔通？
哇，其實都幾搏。
火牙你辣
火牙，
誒哇，其實哇係
吸防啫。咁彈到咁樣，隻 Katana。
好啦，又 buff 咗一下啦。
點樣調㗎？定係火牙其實真係咁弱咧？
其實火牙真係好弱，冇熟收嘅火牙。
呢啲咁極高密防嘅精靈，但係打到一半都唔到喎。
因為降咗2級攻擊啊嘛，啱啱。
只不如叫佢裝醒火算啦，如果就裝醒火啦。
咁係咯，黃昏狗先有硬斬數。
All right, Salamence comes back out and gets the Intimidate off onto Kartana. We know that
Landor
is special, so not too worried about that. But Kartana loses its beast boost. We'll actually be switching out the Kartana slot for Wolf's own Tyranitar, bringing in Tyranitar on Wolf Glick's side, while Landorus sticks around, tries to burn some turns of sleep.
先地狗喐嘅。
哎呀，順風喎，順風嘅Salamence。
Will be making his Pokemon incredibly
真係有啲龍赤
feel. Just goes for Giga Drains onto the Landorus slot. So Wolf able to
哇，
switch
有
out
超
that
級吸收
Kartana to get a free switch in for his Tyranitar there.
Yeah, nothing too wrong with that play for either side. I don't think either of them are too concerned. The tailwind could be nice.
但點解要收走積咗1級攻嘅紫羽劍咧？我唔明啦。雖然俾人威嚇翻一下。
Also, importantly, again, we've seen this
型個情況嘅。始
終
終你而家你而家換翻巴加拉出嚟，其實你而家我覺得係 OK 嘅。
誒，沙人咪又出翻去換翻巴加拉出嚟啦，都係 reset 唔到風沙場地。哎呀，咁佢後手就
地狗換翻出啫。
哎呀，咦？
我 set
鬼 set 喎，定惡 set？會係咩惡係咧？惡咬。無盡黑夜大漩渦。
係，總之 back home finish， 抄。
係一嘢殺咗呢個呼呼嘅。驚牛角包火放，但其實火放機會都唔會算好高喎。
啊，淨係見過佢用。
哦，嗱，我哋有見翻個好熟悉嘅畫面啦。
順風啦，同埋呢個 Hyper Voice 啦，會唔會有火放？
龍星群啊，龍星群又。
誒，咁都係4招啫，仲差一招未睇到嘅。
好啦，咁到底會 mega 邊一隻咧？咁佢一定係有其中一隻 mega 㗎。
Yeah, and even in a worst case scenario, still has that Landorus in the back to cycle Intimidates onto the Tyranitar on Ryota's side. And Salamence, we've already seen its biggest attack is Draco Meteor.
我覺得似係
one Draco Meteor and recover away all that health, then
會
Salamence
點咧？會唔會一邊 mega 一邊龍星群 set 咧？
It's a tough spot for Ryota where he's got two powerful Pokemon that really need conditions that aren't in effect. Tyranitar can't switch out and reactivate a Sandstream. Salamence can't really do anything to play around Draco Meteor.
又做個威嚇，繼續威嚇，繼續威嚇。
因為4打2嘅
日本嗰邊唔可以 switch 走啦，咁巴加拉會係咁食威嚇。
係啊，仲要 protect， 有順風嘅時候仲用 protect。哦，哇晒！但係應該都唔算好大力嘅啫喎。哦，
大力喎
，hit 咗咋？
因為一個 CD 啊，打落去地球度。
但係咁樣冰封、凍風化，咁最後所有重都買過佢哋嘅咯
喎。Wolfie 嗰邊仲有4隻重換啊嘛。
係咯，佢依家換翻隻地球再威嚇多次。我會掉翻隻自己劍出嚟送死咯。
要攞嚟對 班加拉會係好嘅，即係你其實可以做到嘅班紫羽劍同埋美納斯嘅話，然之後兩邊都慢過你嘅話，你實贏嘅喎。其實嗰場，你係咪真係抌紫羽劍出嚟送死先？
係啊。始終我哋唔知沙倫有冇火放咧，Omega 嚟啦，要來的始終要來。
加拉，
咁沙倫應該好大機會係龍石嘅。我哋見到 set 技出現啦，係一個龍石啊！
係啦，收埋咗咁耐嘅龍石終於用啦，依家唔用嘅，近代何時咧？
係啊，話俾全世界人知，我用嘅係沙倫係龍石啊！
我係
應該打我美納斯度嘅。應該可以1下4嘅，
真紅眼黑龍，
係啊係1下4嘅嗰個血量，但係其實應該換翻地狗啦。哎呀，惡咬，咁啊大家個局勢就好，但係對面順風完咗啦，咁就要睇下沙倫文到底係咪真係有嗰個咩啊噴射火焰啦。
確係，但係咩龍星群打落去Katana度，呢個血量
應該都有啲危險。我哋可以準備睇第3場啦。我依家有30位觀眾啊！
奇嘅手段咧 ，Wolfie 呢邊，定係其實佢已經有少放棄呢場，打算第3場再。
咁如果呢個時候 Katana 保護啦，班加拉用咗岩石，哎呀，可能俾人毒中咗啦。
呢個不榮保護先。
哎呀，嗱咁又唔同講法啦。
嗱神奇手段出嚟啦！
但我仲要有龍帽喎，呢一邊。
自己一發打唔低佢哋啊嘛。
喺對面都龍帽。
係啊，不過唔緊要嘅，我哋呢邊嘅班加拉都係快啲嘅。
好啦，呢個時候咧，紫劍可以直接嚟個 detect 先啦，我會。
冇。
咁睇下班加拉有冇岩石啊？有岩石嘅話咧，就可以一夜轟走沙倫。
擊咧，可唔可以一嘢殺到班？
唔係，佢會保護噶嘛，對面班加拉依家好大機會。
加拉。格鬥係技啦，未必殺到班加拉，應該得嘅，我覺得。如果殺到班加拉，咁你得翻隻步人員就好處理啦。
但如果對面保護嘅話，我哋班加拉殺唔到沙倫文就好危險咯，因為會順風啊嘛。
個毒心，咦？但係冇人保護。
哎呀，哦，玩完。
步人員啊，防禦力真係比較弱弱的。
聖劍嚟啦！
搞掂啦，總攻擊，
真係
Wolfie 都係勝人一籌啊！
替身都冇破到就殺咗呢隻，殺咗對面啦！
哇！呢場都其實都幾好睇嘅，雖然
單方
兩邊比較似 Wolfie 自己嘅表現嘅感覺。
其實睇得出兩場 Wolfie 都好 safe play， 好多時候都。
但係佢關鍵嘅時候做嘅決定都做得好好， lost 咗啲機會咯。就算 safe play 嚟講，
係喎。如果頭先隻沙勒文最後係用 high power 嘅話，咁唔會啦啦嗱，佢係咩啊嘛？佢係龍石，唔係 mega 沙勒文，點 high power 都唔會大㗎，
係會穿到替身啊嘛，
穿到都打唔入啦，降係喎。嗱，冇熟收啦，冇咗飛人皮膚，
擺個 AV 俾佢咧係弱啲嘅，都唔得。不過係冇熟收 即係皮膚嘅派嘅話，應該都唔會同對邊嘅。
我話第2場瑞士仔今日打幾多場？
第7場咧，我有啲又係要後台嘅工作人員先話俾我哋聽呢個資料。
He was probably sweating for a little bit.
係咯，我要 GG 啦，其實。
咁快瞓覺？
內心你係咪繼續開台？
睇下點先啦，睇下下一場，講埋下一場好啦。睇下燒包會唔會20先而家？
咁我退翻後面啦，我做翻觀眾啦。
咁我自己講好似冇人。
聽日有人睇嘅，呢度而家仲有24個人睇緊啦。
Multiple mega Pokemon. You have the Mega Metagross and the Mega Tyranitar, and you can sort of switch things up. We mentioned that Tyranitar is a Pokemon that is as frequently used without the Mega. So usually it has another item, but Tyranitar is still good even if it doesn't have Mega Evolve. Metagross still pretty good even if it doesn't have Mega Evolve. And being able to switch between those two, depending on the team matchup that you have, can be really powerful in a best-of-3 set. A lesser player probably would have freaked out about getting the Mega Tyranitar, having not prepped for that at all in that game too.
Yeah, and a nice play by Wolf too. We mentioned.
係咯，我想問依家燒包係第幾啊？有冇幕後工作人員講俾我聽下
？Ended up being one of the most crucial Pokemon in that match. It's a really high-level, fun match on both sides, and it's exactly what you should expect from the Pokemon World Championships.
Absolutely, and one of the other things you should expect from the Pokemon World Championships is Anna Prosser-Robinson interviewing Wolf Glick. So let's toss it down to the interview station where Anna's ready with Wolf.
Thanks, guys. I am indeed here with Wolf. Wolf, this is a familiar place for you backstage doing an interview. How does it feel to be back at the World Championships?
It
feels good. I actually went to the wrong airport for my flight originally, and so it was 6 p.m. My flight was at 8, and I caught a taxi and made it, and my phone was dead, so I was really kind of under pressure. So honestly, it just feels really good to be here. I got in late last night, and I haven't had a ton of time to process and mentally prepare myself because it's been so busy and stuff, but. Yeah, it feels really great to be back. I've been here so many times that I know I would have been really disappointed if I couldn't make it.
A tumultuous arrival. Well, now you're here in this first match. How did it feel to start playing?
My opponent was really, really good. So the games, I think I won game 1 when I probably shouldn't have. My opponent.
燒包1比1即係見唔到㗎咯。
And then game 2, I felt like I was going to win, and then nearly kind of threw it away at the end. And so it was definitely not the cleanest way to start the day, but. I definitely am happy I won. Win is definitely.
見佢唔到係見唔到佢上直播啊！
未申定先。Tell us a little bit about the background of that.
Yeah, so I actually won a regional earlier in the season with a very similar team. It was 4 of the same 6 Pokemon, and then the last 2 were different. But it's actually originally based on a team that I brought to the World Championships in 2015, where I finished 12th. So it's something I'm comfortable with. It's a really strong team. It's definitely difficult to use, especially with the new additions that I've added. I kind of stepped outside of my comfort zone. I'm a very defensive player by nature, so I added things that were a little bit more offensive to put me more in the driving seat. But it's definitely a little bit unintuitive for me to use sometimes. But a lot of my favorite Pokemon in here are on the team. I have my Lodic, who's a favorite of mine. I have Charizard X, which is a big favorite. So it's going to be a long day. 9 rounds is quite a lot. But I feel so far so good. And I like my team. I like a lot of the Pokemon that I'm using, and I feel like that's a big part of how well you can mentally stand up during the day. Do you enjoy using your team? Do you like the Pokemon you're using? So yeah.
Yeah, and how much does it factor in that you have so many matches to come, you have a couple days to come? What are you kind of thinking in terms of, do I hold some things back? Do I let it all out now because I've got to win now?
For me, it's I'm kind of just trying to stay in the moment and not think about, 9 rounds is, I've made it out of day 1 the last 2 years, right? And I did it in 2014 when it was single elimination as well, the last chance qualifier. And in 2016 it was 6 or 8 rounds. 2017 it was 7 rounds. And so 9 rounds really feels very intimidating going in, but I'm just trying to take it 1 game at a time, 1 match at a time, and go from there. Because if I think, oh my gosh, I still have 5 games to win, 7 games left, in the worst case, it can really be a downer. It can really weigh on you and be like, oh my gosh, even if I win this, there's still so much wrong, more that places for it to go wrong. So I don't want to think like that. I just want to say, you know what, I want to play well now. I want to take each game 1 game at a time, and hopefully that leads me where I want to be.
And what are your goals here? I mean, obviously the goal is to be world champion, but is there anything that you're particularly saying, that would be success for me?
You know, honestly, it might be like a little surprising to hear, but I really just want to play tomorrow. This is my 8th World Championship, and I've been doing this since I was a freshman in high school in 2011, and I've always made day 2. You know, out of the 7 years I've already played, 6 of them I finished top 16 or better. I had 1 top 32 where I was 25th. I have 5 top cuts, and so I know that if I have to sit out tomorrow, if I have to be, you know, watching my friends from the sidelines, of course I'll be rooting for them, but I think that'll be really disappointing for me. So honestly, like I said, today's going to be really difficult, but I really just want to play tomorrow, you know, and anything on top of that is kind of a bonus.
Awesome. Well, we hope for that for you. Thank you so much as always, Wolf. And guys, don't go anywhere because we'll be back with more from the Pokemon World Championships right after this.
好啦，依家又進入咗廣告嘅時間啦，我去執杯水先。冇晒聲。咩係炸炸 game 啊？唔明 BBG 講咩添我？哇！仲有7分鐘先到呢個第2場喎。錯晒添我。枯熱燒花。小藍貓收咗台，咁我變咗佢先，變成枯熱燒白。 咁都見到啲 CV， 我係咪吹水啊？係啊，睇嗰場差唔多知結果㗎啦。我想問邊個係朱容坤啊？我唔知邊個嚟。啊！而家嗰個燕巴嚟㗎，定係嗰個咩豬唔知乜乜？我都覺嗰張卡好柒咯，我一開始見到佢播 preview， 以為係出呢個黑白版復刻，點知原來係渣㗎。好啦，我哋就1分鐘就開始啦，已經得返20個人睇緊。好傷心啊我！好啦，1秒，好，我哋又睇返呢個入遊戲畫面嘅熒幕啦。
Prepare for trouble, trainers. We are back at the Pokemon 2018 World Championships. My name is Team Rocket Executive.
不過其實隻草蛇真係幾得意喎，講真。
Scott Glaser.
Hi, Jay.
You said you were going to play into it. Okay, anyway, we are going into round 3 here in the Video Game Championship Series. And after 2 incredible rounds featuring previous world champions, we are setting the bar high.
Yeah, I mean, not only do we have these great players on the previous couple of matches, but I mean, that last one was so close the whole way through. It seemed like kind of in both games, the likely winner wound up losing. Lots of impressive plays where Wolf just kept getting Milotic in exactly the right time. We had big misses. We had really clever reads. It was
Yeah, two things to say to that. Like, obviously, you mentioned Milotic coming in at the right time for Wolf, and Milotic does seem like a Pokemon that really benefits Wolf's playstyle. He likes to make defensive switches. He understands how other people want to play, and that ability to be able to a certain slot to be like, okay, you can't switch in now because otherwise I'm going to start steamrolling you is so cool.
Yeah, that was awesome where it's like, I think Wolf sometimes gets a little mischaracterized as playing defensive. I think a lot of it is just he's good at kind of the psychology of like, well, I know my opponent has these options, I'm going to take away these other options. And Milotic is just such a good Pokemon. Like you said, like, oh, well, all the options that you have now are bad for you and good for me, so good luck. And yeah, there just wasn't a whole lot you could do. I think he had 3 different really great competitive boosts that set, where there's just not really anything Ryota could have done.
Oh, especially seeing as the format currently at the moment is, hi, how many Intimidates can I put on my team? Probably 2, probably Incineroar, probably Landorus, most likely together. Competitive or Defiant seems like a very good opportunity to snowball those boosts. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier, towards like the end of the game, the likely winner wasn't the person who actually won it in the end. And we were going nuts backstage on those final 2 turns where Ryota decided to lock in that Protect on his Salamence instead of going for the Tailwind. And they both Dragon Danced at the same time. Shout outs to Music City, obviously. But it was so unexpected, and maybe a different move from Ryota could have opened it up into a game 3.
Yeah, like it was so close at the end there where he had that great turn where he got the surprise Mega Evolution Z-move thing, and like that was amazing. And then it just kind of petered out there where, it was so important to keep the speed advantage and to make sure, you could finish off that Kartana before anything too horrible happened. And I don't know if he just like wasn't expecting the option of Dragon Dance on Wolf's side, but yeah, that ended up backfiring super hard, unfortunately. Really well played set otherwise by Ryota too, so it's like, it's tough to lose a set on one play going so wrong. But
and both players, as you say, Scott, playing immensely. And one of the immense
Silva 1-1 Miss K 0-2 Elvin 1-1 小軒0-2 PI 0-2 Oscar 1-1
well versed with now as a mainstay of the VGC World Championship Series, and for good reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of excited to see so much of it. We actually saw a lot of Tyranitar back at the North American International Championships with Len Duel's team. And, he told me for the tournament he was using that, and I was just kind of like, really, Len? Tyranitar in 2018? But no, it's kind of really defined itself as one of the top Pokemon in this format again. We saw 2 different sand teams. Wolf's team is very much not sand-focused, but kind of just showing off Tyranitar's power as a side dish instead of a main course. Really dangerous Pokemon to deal with. Sandstorm is always going to be a powerful factor, whittling down those opposing Pokemon's health. Allied Pokemon too, in the case of a team like Wolves where you don't have too many resistances. Really great to kind of just check the thread of weather.
唔係啊，上年17年有人用接力女嘅雙打，大家係咪唔記得最強嘅伊貝石啊？
Equally as often as other items, and obviously in round 1 we saw that Augustine was using a choice scarf.
不過今年就真係冇嘅，因為依家隻蟲都可以好輕易咁樣打爆呢本。
So many options. It's a really flexible Pokemon, and as you said, Scott, Sandstream boosting its special defense when Sand is in effect. It's just a big ball of stats, really. It's like I've got high attack, I've got high special defense, high defense, and the opportunity to become a late game sweeper under Dragon Dance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool, too, in the context of the team that we just saw it on. Not only do you have that great Dragon Dance Mega Tyranitar option, but that team preview is so weird, where you've got 3 Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, and like, Metagross almost always going to Mega Evolve. Tyranitar could go either way. Salamence at this point, I think on Sand, you assume Mega Evolution, right? So he's created this really great deceptive team preview where, in the context of the other Pokemon on his team, of course it's not Mega Tyranitar, and then it is.
Yeah. One of the things that we've seen from other trainers throughout the series, Alessio Yuri Busquetto, the Oceania International Champion, was using a team with Mega Metagross and Tyranitar, and on that team, it really is a gamble at Team Preview if the Tyranitar will also be holding that Mega Stone. Some players run it, some players don't, but it gives you that second win con at the end when, okay, I've dealt with a lot of the Pokemon that Tyranitar are weak against. Now I can just set up a Dragon Dance and really start going ham with the Crunch or maybe with the Rock Slide because
散抽之下真係唔應該買啊！你幫襯嗰間黑店，貴成倍喎嗰間嘢。
Maybe you can pull it out. Super cool to see two kind of the combination of Metagross and Tyranitar together. You know, they cover each other's weaknesses so well. Two members of the 2012 World Championships winning team, and still, you know, it's like other than ground type attacks, there's not a whole lot that beats them both.
And you mentioned, Scott, that if you have the speed advantage, you can really make the most of your strategies. And, oh look, Stay Up to Speed is on screen just for us now. But from Ryota's side of the field, where is Lycanroc in that weather-triggered abilities? Sand Rush proving really, really great. The amazing thing is that Lycanroc's with that splintered Storm Shard Z move exclusive to Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, hasn't been seen in competitive play too often. I don't think I've actually seen it on any streams this year at all. At -1 physical attack, still able to knock out a Mega Charizard X. That's nuts.
Yeah, that Charizard's defense gets pretty serious, and I don't think Wolf was really expecting that to happen either. Certainly calling the Z move altogether was pretty good, but a lot of cool stuff there. And kind of like you mentioned before,
但係今日仲未見過有魚隊喎，今日見得最多係沙隊，一唔算係沙隊嘅，係一定有班吉拉喎。
With a Pokemon like Salamence, you have to be concerned about, like, well, can I get this big Draco Meteor off? Am I just going to get blown up so I have to protect? You know, am I giving my opponent too much by not attacking and wind up making the wrong call there? But maybe next time it'll be different.
And this is why
呢度大把人都揾到燒巴啦，有 Facebook 㗎嘛屌。
side as well, Icy Wind is so threatening, not for damage, but for the amount of control it places on the opposing player. Not only do you get the speed drops, but you also get inside their head a little bit. And it's about, oh no, my really fast offensive Pokemon isn't that fast anymore. I'm susceptible to a knockout here. Maybe I should switch. And then for Wolf, it's like, please switch, because I'm about to knock something out.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I really like about the counter for Wolf's play is exactly that. You know, it sets up opportunities for him to make plays. You know, it makes you, even if the Icy Wind doesn't matter yet, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're pinned later, and when the Icy Wind does matter, you're kind of just hosed. So, okay, you either got to get this Pokemon out or...
黐線㗎！我到小巴贏晒之後，嗰啲入 Day 2都可以俾到護屏我。即係邊？我覺得係內人，我覺得係你哋班友做㗎咯。1分鐘㗎，食 OK 係咪食蕉同 DD 做啊？
And this is the interesting thing about bringing Lycanroc with that Fire Fang. It was there to deal with Kartana. And Kartana was a really offensive threat against Lycanroc and Tyranitar. And with those two Pokemon, Milotic with really, really good opportunities to get those Icy Winds off. Ryota didn't really have an answer, so he went for Amoonguss. And Amoonguss obviously doesn't have Icy Winds drops. It has the ability to redirect attacks and put things to sleep. Without the opportunity for Wolf to stop Spore, that was Ryota's real key Pokemon to stop Milotic.
Yeah, I mean, he played it really well, too, where it seemed like every time Amoonguss needed to use Spore, there was just nothing that Wolf could do, where it's like, yep, guess I'm going to sleep now. And the Rage Powders were big, too, especially in that particular matchup. You know, often Landorus is not really a counter to Amoonguss, but can get by one of Amoonguss's biggest strategies, in that you can kind of just Earthquake around that Rage Powder. But not an option there. Wolf's got that special Landorus, which makes a lot of sense in the context of his team. You know, you want to have special attacking Pokemon around that physically attacking Mega Charizard X, but Amoonguss really ate that up, where had Ryota come up on top of that series, even though we didn't see a ton of Amoonguss, I think its contributions would have been one of the biggest reasons why.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous Pokemon that we've seen being used by so many players.
即係200賣嗰啲order嘅公仔係拎嚟抽嘅。
Its mainstay Spore isn't as potent as it used to be, but Clear Smog is the reason to use it. Those big, bulky defensive stats, and the ability to stop setup teams is really, really powerful for Amoonguss, and I think that's why Pokemon like it and Cresselia just keep coming back year after year.
Yeah, it's kind of feeling a little nostalgic, right? Where both Amoonguss and Tyranitar seemed like they weren't major players even 3 or 4 months ago, and now they've become among the most popular Pokemon again. I think Amoonguss in particular, and kind of Tyranitar too, because of Sandstream specifically. There's just so many powerful strategies this year. We're seeing it a little bit early in this tournament, where it's seeing a bunch of Pokemon that aren't kind of the usual suspects. But man, I can't remember too many formats where more strategies weren't at least reasonably viable. And I think both Amoonguss and Tyranitar are really good at kind of just being catch-alls, where even if you're playing something you're not expecting, Spore is still good, Rage Powder especially is still good, Clear Smog is great if you're facing some sort of stat increasing threat you're not expecting. Don't want to deal with weather teams? Tyranitar is really great there. It's just these Pokemon that can help cover a lot of different things so that your core strategy can kind of avoid too many moves that are just for specific matchups. I think it's really crucial.
So you mentioned it a little bit, we've seen some more niche Pokemon, some more unique strategies in these early rounds of day 1 of the Pokemon 2018 Video Game Championship Series World Championships. And we're obviously, day 1, you're allowed to use a team, and day 2, you can change teams if you progress onto day 2. Do you imagine that some of these strategies wouldn't make the cut in day 2? Do you imagine that players would want to go for those more defined teams with the higher stat potentials and not rely on hopefully getting the best of someone in that grinder?
Oh no, see for me, I would go the other way, where it's like, I feel like in day 2, that's when you bust out the crazy stuff, where it's like, it's so hard to get through the best players in the world if you're using the same team that they are. Like, you must at that point be the best at the standard archetype, and probably the best by a lot to reliably get through that. So for me, I was kind of expecting people would play safe today and then go nuts tomorrow. The fact that we're seeing so many players be like, all right, like day 1, here comes the fun stuff. I feel like maybe even they have crazier tricks for tomorrow, or maybe it's just a sign of things to come, where I feel like at the North American International Championships, we saw a lot of the same 3 or 4 really popular teams, and like, unless you think you can play that better than they can, you got to have something else that beats it instead. And I think the right play is to try to run something a little out of left field, and that's what we're seeing so far.
Especially if you're going through day 1, there are a lot of Swiss rounds to get through before you even make it into day 2, and then the knockout stages. You've got to think about mental stamina at that point, and with teams that are more well known to every player, you're compromising your own mental stamina because you have to prove that you can outplay them each turn, whereas little tricks here and there might be able to give you that turn 1 of game 1, that huge knockout like put him in such a strong position. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to capitalize on it, but it was so strong and took completely out of the game. If Milotic wasn't a thing, there could have been a real tough game.
Absolutely, and we're going to have another really fun game here in this next round. We've got Brendan Zhang taking on Juan Pablo Rodriguez.
Well, Brendan Zhang, a previous world champion as well. He won back in 2013, I believe, and we're just bringing you all the world champions here in the VGC 2018 World Championships. He's going up against Juan Pablo Rodriguez, and I've looked over his team, Scott, and you're going to be really, really happy. There's a lot of legacy Pokemon that you're familiar with here.
Yeah, I mean, some part of me in my heart, I'm just pulling for Brendan a little bit after watching him win the Junior Division World Championships in our first stream, but yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff on this side. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of casting before, but just love. We've got Hitmontop, a classic support Pokemon. One of the Pokemon that Wolf, who we saw a couple rounds ago, or last round, won the 2016 World Championships with. It's got Fake Out, has option of using moves like Feint and Wide Guard that separate it a little bit on the supportive side from other Pokemon who are capable of learning Fake Out. Just a lot of great stuff there, but Brendan's team is plenty of fun too.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see these teams. Round 3, the Pokemon World Championships. Juan Pablo, Charizard, Landorus, Raikou, Hitmontop, Tapu Fini, and Metagross going against Coco, Kartana, Clefairy, Salamence, Nidoqueen, and Snorlax. And that is a team that we've seen before, but one Pokemon changed up. That looks like the national champions team from Japan.
Yeah, I'm kind of fun to see that too. It's like I was surprised that more people didn't copy at the North American International Championships. It's a best of one team moving to best of 3, but I think a lot of people realized after the Japan event that, man, I don't really have any answers to Nidoqueen. Really tough Pokemon to play against, and I think it could be big in this matchup too. I was a little disappointed the last time we saw it on stream where World Champions never had a chance to bust it out. This time I feel like there's a lot of Pokemon I could work against, so I wouldn't be shocked if we see it.
一啲比較神奇嘅陣容，因為我哋頭先都見到呢邊
We saw that on the Japanese national champions team, he had Cresselia in that slot.
有雷公嘅存在啦，另外邊係有利美后嘅存在，都係啲比較冷門嘅啫。
If Tapu Koko knows a move like Volt Switch, perhaps just attacking, getting out to Clefairy.
係咯，之前日本係用嚟美后嘅嘛，我記得有段時間，但係烏度會喺世界賽見到。
So Brendan's got to be a little careful on defense, but other than maybe a big double target in the Snorlax slot, there's some potential here. So yeah, and wow, switch.
Metagross leaving the field in favor of Landorus Fairy form, the first Intimidate of round 3 coming out here. Very important to get some of that onto Snorlax, unless it's going for that belly drum, which will just disregard it completely. Volt Switch coming out from Tapu Koko into that Landorus Fairy slot, trying to get some challenge onto Metagross.
雷公個雷聲打出嚟啦，咁先叫雷公啊，儲氣、儲力、儲氣、儲氣、儲氣。咁就全身釋放力量，就使出呢個激金威嚇唔識讀啊，咁啊就終極伏特狂雷閃啊，咁一嘢打落去卡比獸身上，應該都即刻幫佢食果實㗎啦。哇！有電場都殺唔死卡比獸有突破係犀利嘅。但係佢醫我嘅時候用啤針就真係有啲危險喎。其實應該用 recycle 喎，嗰一係，但係有啲薄咯，我覺得。咁呢個時候 Coco 又要換走，卡比獸又會死啦，基本上一彎嚟講嘅話。左邊選擇會有利啲咯，暫時嘅情況係。太過啫嘛，點會真係識到？好似係。
Yeah, and the Landorus Earthquake option is so strong here.
咁首先喺地狗行先，咁即係呢只係福酸地狗啦。
Yeah, now can bring anything he wants here. The one good thing about that for Brendan is, Landorus moving before Tapu Koko is a little suspicious, but man, if that's all you get out of
it. We see the switch will be coming out shortly. Metagross hitting the field once more. It might be taking some damage for its trouble as Tapu Koko goes for the Sky Drop. Really, really great play here.
居然係 Sky Drop 啊
frustration going into what used to be Landorus. Metagross surviving that hit due to the reduced damage because of its
哇！真係啊，好耐冇見過一招啦 ，Sky Drop。Coco Sky Drop 真係17年玩死人嘅戰術。
Even though it doesn't knock out Metagross, at least you got something. You're trading most of Snorlax's health for now most of Metagross's health. With Snorlax being so slow, it's still likely to get taken down here, but
但係依家一落嚟 ，Coco 一落嚟就揦嘢喎。
Good chip damage onto Metagross makes Tapu Koko's life easier later on in this game. We see the Mega Evolution coming out now, Clear Body being removed for Tough Claws, and the Snorlax going to protect itself. Very good information for Juan Pablo for later on in this set. Sky Drop obviously bringing Raikou back down, not doing too much damage. It's a resisted hit, and a little critical hit there too, very nice. Thunderbolt coming out from Raikou, going into that Snorlax's Protect as the Stomping Tantrum being revealed.
Coco 要退場啊！睇嚟係啊 ，Coco 嗰個揼地一下就死啦。
Often when Tapu Koko knows Sky Drop like this, they're a little slower than normal, not trained for that maximum speed, but Metagross still able to pick it off, and Juan Pablo kind of reestablishing his lead. Now you've got that weakened Snorlax on the field. Metagross is going to be intimidated here, but Salmon's going to have to do some serious work to bring going to be tough to get another attack off with Snorlax.
佢咁計咩價？早啲走出嚟一個好嘅選擇啦，起碼威嚇到佢啦。同埋始終佢今季除咗有冰拳啦，否則都對血嘅飛龍唔係一個好大嘅威脅。最大威脅係反而係雷公嘅
type legendary Pokemon like Raikou, we often see an Ice-type hidden power. Definitely don't want to take that on your Salamence if you want any chance of coming back at this one, though. With the Electric Terrain, Thunderbolt would do nearly as much.
Very interesting Pokemon to face off against. Salamence trading its Intimidate ability, going to activate Aerialate, which will boost its normal type attacks, changing them into Flying type, and getting a little extra boost as well. Coming out from Metagross here, it is a very valuable Pokemon at this point. Tailwind coming out from Brendan, great play. Nidoqueen will really appreciate as the Thunderbolt goes into that Snorlax slot. 咁呢個情況又逆轉翻去喺嗰個英國係咪英國國旗？
And he gets Nidoqueen on the field for free. Fast Nidoqueen. Surprisingly enough, one of the most intimidating Pokemon in the video game championships. With the sheer force and Life Orb, it does an absurd amount of damage to almost everything. It has great type coverage, and there's really nothing on Juan Pablo's team that can take all of its attacks, so he's going to have to make predictions.
If an Earth Power was going into that Raikou, it will not affect Landorus at all. This Intimidate could prove useful onto Salamence on Brendan's side. We haven't seen it attack yet. Metagross coming in as well. Double switch. He's going to be bringing out Intimidate. Very nice play there. Trying to control this Salamence before it gets too out of hand. Nidoqueen doesn't care about Intimidates though. It's a special attacking Pokemon. Frustration will go into the hit damage, but you can see how those Intimidates are working here. Earth Power, very good switch from Juan Pablo's side there. Electric Terrain ending, so Raikou's damage output will be a little late. But Nidoqueen still a huge threat.
Yeah, I mean, Juan Pablo's storming back a little bit there. Dodging that Earth Power prevents one of his Pokemon from being knocked out. But Salamence now able to at least threaten a knockout on this hit. Coming in there, trying to get a fake out. Most likely Nidoqueen just slowing down Brendan's offense until this Tailwind expires. Kind of a tricky play now, though, where whatever you don't fake out is threatening a KO and is much quicker because of Tailwind. Juan Pablo's still going to have to make a read here.
Nidoqueen being safe for later here. Rely on Snorlax coming in its place. Fake out. Very stout defenses from that Snorlax. And there we see the frustration picking up the KO on the Hitmontop. Really nice to stop that Intimidate and fake out later on in the game. Snorlax going down from this Earthquake now.
But he absolutely had to hit that if he wanted to try. He burst the fake out by switching Nidoqueen out. The combination of fake out and Earthquake hitting Nidoqueen would have ended this game. There's no way he's going to get that. But he gets Nidoqueen back out without paying anything. Snorlax fainting actually helps him there. And now Nidoqueen is out in the field against a bunch of Pokemon it can do a lot of damage against once again.
See if Brendan reveals if his Salamence is running special attacks, because those two Intimidates are very bad for it at this point in time. Metagross or Raikou without some sort of coverage move, and it's a very difficult spot for that Salamence, but Nidoqueen is the real premier here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is both sides need to think a few turns ahead. I think if Brendan's going to win this one, he has to get a second Tailwind off, so he needs to keep his Pokemon healthy enough that Nidoqueen can attack in Tailwind 2, most likely. There's still a lot of damage to do. This Tailwind is probably not going to be enough.
We'll have to see if we can get Tailwind 2, Electric Metagross once again. Raikou going to protect itself here. Doesn't want to and we see frustration. Gonna go into Landorus Metagross that was no damage at all. Ice Beam going to cover that slide. Very nice play from Brendan. Not enough for the knockout though, as Tailwind ends as well.
Excellent double target, but it's just not quite enough. That return like I mentioned, Brendan really could use that Intimidate, or that Tailwind, but it's kind of tricky, right? Where if you use Return into the Metagross slot, you don't have to worry about attacking. But Earth powering Raiko isn't necessarily safe because of Landorus being in the back too. There's a lot of things to manage.
但其實嗰下嚟尾係應該用大地之力會好啲喎，我覺得。因為地球一定換走㗎啦，咁除非佢哋都換咗佢地震就你自己有㗎啦嘛，咁其實你都係比較有利㗎嘛，係咪先？ Salomon 係快過佢有快喎。
That Juan Pablo might want to go for.
Hidden Power Ice 打出嚟啦。其實一打死嘅。
Super effective. It probably is ice then.
Earth Power 打出嚟㗎，睇可唔可以一嘢收到佢攻擊咧？係得嘅，咁得啦。
Proving it's here to rule over this game.
Yeah, Nidoqueen still being that big threat and sending out Landorus against a Pokemon you know as Ice Beam is a little scary.
Yes, indeed. Nidoqueen.
我諗佢咁快依家得翻硬幣嘅選擇。
For Juan Pablo, and he must be thinking about game 2 already. He must have been thinking about it a couple of turns ago.
因為佢要鎖速轉㗎嘛。咁其實佢硬幣先可以一次過殺晒佢啫，佢鎖地震就唔會殺咪就係冇事啦。
No way is an exaggeration, but other than a rock slide here, it's going to be tough. You know, if Brendan uses Protect and Tailwind and gets it off, Nidoqueen will close the game.
Rock slide 嘅時候到啦。
Salamence and just hope for flinches.
Well, here comes that rock slide.
就可唔可以睇下可唔可以 rock slide 協夠8次啦？6次 OK 6次。
Will be enough to no flinch coming out here. That is just what Juan Pablo likes to see. But you saw how much damage that rock slide did with the boost because.
唔係喎，因為硬幣依家得翻一下啦，得翻單一目標。
There's the first rock slide hit. It's going to
會
be
再貼到咧
Nidoqueen going for the ice.
哦 ，ice cream 打到嚟咯，
Game
咁
over. Juan
未必
Pablo
會完，
taking
會
a
唔會
loss
咧？
this
係
game.
完
Brendan Zhang coming back from nowhere here.
Yeah, he seemed like he was so buried after the first couple of turns, but he had a couple of great plays to get Nidoqueen in the position it needed to be. I think part of why a lot of players didn't try out the Nidoqueen thing after Japan Nationals is that Nidoqueen is really hard to use. It's not strong defensively. It's not as quick. You can't constantly keep an advantageous board state for it. It's heavy. You know, it doesn't contribute to your team at all, really. And Brendan, from terrible positioning, managed to drag it back to where Nidoqueen can carry him to victory instead. Just a really great second half of that game by Brendan.
And it's so
好啦，
interesting
就
to
睇一睇
see
陣容啦。左邊嘅選手咧，
A lot of
有噴火龍啦、地九輪弓、柯羅、Penny 同埋巨金怪啦。咁 Mega 嘅手段應該係 Y 神同埋呢個 Mega 巨金怪㗎。威下手有威下手，又有劈歐手啦，又有場地啦，其實呢個陣容唔錯嘅。咁對面右邊啦，飛龍細佬就有高布子、嘅皮皮、血液、利美號同埋卡比手嘅。 呢個咁睇其實左面嗰個係對付唔到氣控。
But there was like, I think four of the final 5 turns or something, Brendan just made an incredible read and had a huge value advantage on that turn. It's going to be tough to do that 2 games in a row unless Brendan is just that far into his head. It's going to be a tough match.
I'm really interested to see if Brendan goes to select mode again. It proved problematic. He managed to get the belly drum up, but all of Juan's team outspeed Snorlax, so it might be difficult for it to be able to use that boost. So I'm wondering if Snorlax was led in that first game to be like, hey, you should probably deal with this, while allowing Brendan to get himself in a position where Nidoqueen goes for the win here. So I'd be interested to see if Snorlax is still in favor in this game. But we see a switch up straight out from Juan here.
一邊係就係一個好常見嘅陣容啦，就係 Y 噴加地九，另一邊就係正嘅，就係嗰個陣容。卡比手加卡布coco。
It's not a tag team GX, but it might as well be Landorus, Fairy Form, and Charizard.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it should be. We've seen a lot of these 2 Pokemon paired together. Landorus able to use Earthquake safely with Charizard next to it. Both of them able to dish out a lot of theoretical spread damage, though. Certainly a little scary to try to pull that off against a Tapu Koko.
Y 朋要走嘅機會都好高。
A lot of it depends on how this Tapu Koko is trained. We saw Sky Drop from it before, so perhaps less fast and frail than we're used to seeing. Regardless, another setup that Snorlax probably isn't going to want to try to belly drum against.
Exactly, and we saw that Landorus already outspeeds this Tapu Koko from game 1. Earthquake looks lovely here.
Yeah.
佢直接換咗卡比獸嗰次，會唔會係因為怕傻力氣咧？即係慢力
coming in, Snorlax leaving the field in
頭先威嚇咗兩下先，威嚇咗地球先
onto
啦。
Landorus, reducing his physical attack by 1 stage. Charizard going to protect. It does not want to eat any electric type damage from Tapu Koko. Landorus going for the knockoff. He was prepared for that Snorlax, not knocking off anything from Salamence because of the Mega Stone, and Tapu Koko falling for that Charizard protect.
Yeah, but you kind of love this turn if you're Brendan. Not only do you get Salamence in with an Intimidate, but that speedy Landorus now forced to keep using knockoff on 2 Pokemon who have items, I guess. Tapu Koko may, yeah, it could be either way. I mean, these with Skydrop, you'd kind of think it might be not a Z Crystal, but still too dangerous to stay in, and we see Landorus failing as you'd expect.
威嚇翻一下先啦，就可以入翻個壁頭。
Very, very useful going on to that Salamence. And
we
see Charizard switching out as well. Doesn't do enough damage to this Salamence on Brendan's side of the field. Raikou taking its place. Hidden Power Ice, obviously very potent, and electric type damage as well. Mega Evolution, bond with its trainer, allows it to achieve new heights. It's going to activate its aerial ability. Any of its flying type moves doing a load of damage here. Volt Switch finally connecting for Brendan going into that Raikou. Very nice switching potential for him as we get to pivot into a new Pokemon.
Yeah, pretty scary moment on Juan Pablo's side. I mean, whatever Salamence does here is a tailwind could both be pretty bad, and that is the tailwind. The second game in a row, Brendan is getting that free switch to Nidoqueen and a tailwind off. Protecting it so well in this series.
But he's got to get past this Hitmontop fake out this turn. Raikou will be free to start throwing out some damage. Salamence forced to protect here. We might see a protect from the Nidoqueen as well. Yes, there we do. Doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage. Very smart play from Brendan here. But Juan Pablo able to force Raikou out of its tailwind.
Yeah, and we do see the move coming out here. Still going to have some decent damage on Salamence. What's really going to matter is if it does enough to put it in knockout range from that Hidden Power Ice.
Yeah, you imagine this is why Juan Pablo has gone for it. And also, hey, electric terrain's on the field. That damage is going to be increased once again. Raikou launching a Gigavolt Havoc into that Mega Salamence. But look at it, still a very nice chunk, and that should be Hidden Power Ice range.
Yeah, it's just tight enough that I'd be a little scared, but I think you have to nice play by Juan Pablo. And we've talked a lot about Brendan playing Nidoqueen so well, but that's also the second game in a row where Hitmontop got in at the right time to use Fake Out and burn one of these turns of Tailwind. Another really good players.
Yeah, Hitmontop and Raikou are really the problem Pokemon for Brendan. Nidoqueen in a position where it can do a lot of damage to both of them. Both offensive ultimates for Brendan are in a good position, but the Raikou still able to start putting in work. It needs to be able to survive an Earth Power though. We see the switch out. Tapu Koko coming in favor of that Salamence. Raikou leaves the field. Very smart switch. Earth Power will not be able to affect Charizard with its flying type. Will be immune. Hitmontop coming in once again as well. That's going to be Landorus, and wasting these Tailwind turns super important for Juan Pablo.
Yeah, I mean, you assume that Nidoqueen was using Earth Power on one of his 2 Pokemon.
On
the Landorus.
What a read from That is a huge knockout.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great read too, where, I mean, you know that he'd like to cycle the Hitmontop and get that fake out again, but it's tough to pick this off. Risk not really doing any damage if there's not a switch. Brendan's been lights out all match long, and now he's got a big lead in this second game.
Yes, and the ability to, we said, like, when you have speed control, you need to make the most of it, and that is definitely making the most of it. Would have been nice chip damage on any Pokemon coming in, even that Charizard as well, but more importantly, got that huge knockout, and Juan Pablo's back to the wall here. Nidoqueen retreating. It's going to be in favor for that Salamence. Very nice switch here. Will resist any fire-type damage coming out from that Charizard. Charizard Y will be hitting the field again. Juan Pablo favoring this version instead of Charizard X. Drought ability will be activating, boosting fire-type damage. Tapu Koko really under threat from any damage here, but it outspeeds Charizard, so Charizard probably wants to protect in this turn.
Yeah, or Hitmontop will use the fake out. Yeah, there we go. Let's Brendan get that easy switch into Salamence.
So we see the fake out going into Tapu Koko. But it's on Charizard this time. Really nice play from Juan Pablo here. And making sure that he manages to get the speed options. Will hopefully be able to get rid of this Tapu Koko and allow Charizard to be able to make
佢個睇下 Cherry 使一下 Over Hit， Over Hit 或者熱風殺打死 Coco 啦。
On Brendan's side kind of helps Brendan. He's in a position where he can probably get that tailwind up again right away, and I'd expect he's going to want to.
但其實呢個情況佢殺咗柯波羅就贏㗎啦，因為後面有一隻突防好高嘅卡比獸喺度。係啊，所以佢都收翻柯波羅就好啦，換翻雷公出嚟。
Here's a switch out into a more offensive option for Juan Pablo. Raikou hitting the field one more, adding a bit of pressure to the field. Salamence protecting himself, not going for the tailwind. This might be a double protect, but no, just see the flamethrower coming out from Charizard. Tapu Koko going to be eating that, and it's going to be a fair amount of damage here. Skydrop coming out from Tapu Koko. Looks like that could be Assault Vest, Scott.
Yeah, it's got to be with how little damage that did.
That
backfired a little bit for Brendan. It turned out he could have taken that tailwind if he wanted it. Now because he didn't, Raikou is quicker than Salamence.
再用 Tailwind 嘅話，咁下彎 Coco 又帶翻個呢個 Charizard。
It'll do no damage, but at least it's going to prevent Charizard from attacking. But the pin is on, so Brendan kind of just going to have to take some damage here. I assume on Snorlax, and yeah, there it comes.
Well,
但應該上現人咧，好奇怪。
Able to soak up a lot of damage all the time. Hidden Power Ice going into that Snorlax, and doesn't really mind that damage at all. Skydrop not doing any damage to this Charizard because of the flying type as well, but it's unable to move this turn.
Yeah, I mean, it does do a nice job of helping to stall out this tailwind, but you know, Charizard also still not really threatened. Weird thing to say with Tapu Koko on the field, but with the two quicker Pokemon on the other side, there's not really a lot of to get tailwind up again if he needs to. However, ignoring Snorlax is a really bad idea. So, you know, Brendan at least has Snorlax and Thor to create some threat. Maybe, oh, do you really want to go after this Tapu Koko? But the advantage is on Juan Pablo now.
Snarl option coming out from Juan Pablo, but it misses the most important Pokemon, Tapu Koko there. A low range attack on Snorlax, which isn't going to matter too much. Flamethrower will be going into that Snorlax. He was really hoping to get that Snarl onto there. Very aggravating Snorlax will boost it back over its half HP range. And you imagine just a straight attack coming out from Brendan here to put some effort onto that Charizard. Electro Web is a very interesting move for a Snorlax.
大家有睇 Pokemon 動畫都知道電網係咩特效㗎啦，就係可以擋石技嘅。
Snorlax will finally get the opportunity to show its frustration towards Charizard, taking it down into the red.
Yeah, easy to see why Snorlax must be frustrated after the way that this match has played out for it, but it kind of got its revenge there. That speed drop on both of these Pokemon in the last turn of Tailwind is huge. Charizard not going to be able to take another Electro Web if it connects. Tapu Koko now almost definitely the quickest Pokemon in the field after reducing both Raikou and Charizard's speed, and Juan Pablo is again in a difficult situation when there's two Pokemon on Brendan's side of the field he can't really ignore.
And the switch out has to happen here. Snorlax needs to be threatened with an Intimidate and Fighting type damage. It will be reducing its physical attack by one stage. And Tapu Koko will be going for the Volt Switch, preserving its allowing Brendan to pivot one more time.
This could be another easy switch into Nidoqueen if he wants it.
And we see Brendan taking a little bit of time here, but he does reveal the Nidoqueen. With Raikou's lowered speed, Nidoqueen might be able to outspeed it. Hidden Power going off into the Tapu Koko slot, predicting the switch. A fair amount of damage to Nidoqueen there. It's still able to take another one, but the frustration going into Raikou shows that Brendan is really thinking about which Pokemon he needs to get rid of quickly.
Problem. It's kind of a weird thing to say. Not the most traditional attacking Pokemon in the video game championships, but it's had a big presence here. Nidoqueen just healthy enough that Hidden Power alone is probably not going to pick up a knockout, but you know, it and almost any other move probably would, so still a dangerous place for Brendan to be. We know that Hitmontop often runs feint. That would be really close with Hidden Power here, so still something to worry about on Brendan's side, especially with Hitmontop likely knowing close combat. Snorlax in some danger too.
But we've mentioned it before, that lowered speed on Raikou does put a lot of pressure on it. Nidoqueen could outspeed and knock it out. But that still leaves Snorlax free just to get some chip damage around. Fake Out will be going into Nidoqueen. No Protect there. Raikou going for the Hidden Power as well. This could be a double up, Scott. It will be. Nidoqueen is going to go down here. Huge knockout for Juan Pablo. A very offensive threat taken down as Snorlax once again pressuring constantly with those frustrations.
Yeah, and with its reduced attack, it's not hugely damaging, but slowly wearing down that Raikou. Now weak enough that almost anything should knock it out too. But kind of a rough turn for Brendan there. The damage helps, but he got a little cavalier. And we've been so good at protecting Nidoqueen all series long. Perhaps felt that this was the time where he built enough of an advantage, had been safe enough within the past that he could get away with one, but he couldn't. Juan Pablo calls it, gets that knockout, and now he's still in this one.
But Salamence in a very good position here. Frustration should pick up the knockout on either Pokemon. Goes for Raikou because it's a very dangerous Pokemon. We've discussed it several times. Gets that all-important knockout. Close combat going into Snorlax, taking out that opportunity for Snorlax to be in the win condition, but it doesn't pick up the knockout. Defenses fall as well, and the frustration will go directly into Hitmontop here, putting it well within range for a knockout next turn.
Yeah, I mean, Snorlax just proving how bulky it is, and now only Charizard remains. With both these Pokemon so low on health, Brendan seems like he's got this one. It's a really well-played set by him so far.
Yeah, we've seen some premier plays coming out from Brendan here. No disrespect to Juan Pablo at all. He has fought valiantly, but in the position we are at the moment, it looks like Brendan should be able to clean this up. He does reveal the feint. It goes into that Snorlax, picking up the knockout. There, just to stop Snorlax from having any shenanigans later on in the game. Frustration coming out from Salamence. This picks up the knockout onto Charizard, and with Tapu Koko in the back, it looks like it's going to be curtains for Juan Pablo.
Yeah, he played a really fun set there. Super fun to get to see all the damage that Raikou wound up doing this series, but Brendan was just a step ahead with Nidoqueen all series long. Despite that early deficit in the first game, just always seemed to be able to get Nidoqueen out at the right time. And whether it was Nidoqueen herself doing the big damage or just the threat of her allowing Tapu Koko and Salamence to get some work done, Brendan was able to use this team masterfully.
Yeah, another feint coming out from Hitmontop, putting in work just before it gets knocked out here. Really great play. Handshakes delivered from both players, and the Volt Switch should be able to pick up the knockout on the Hitmontop. Brendan Zhang will be taking this round 3 game at the Pokemon 2018 Video Game World Championships.
Yeah, really impressive by a young player too. You know, we've talked about being a former world champion. That was at the junior division. It wasn't that many years ago, right? Seeing it now at the most prestigious tournament, the Alpha division, and just amazing play. You know, maybe the best performance we've seen so far tonight.
Yeah, some serious instinct coming out from Brendan to make the most of his Tailwind, make the most of those switch-in potentials, and this is something that we've spoken about in previous tournaments, how Snorlax is a Pokemon that loves to steal attention. Whether it's attacking or not, you need to respect that Snorlax is there. Nidoqueen is also one of those Pokemon, and once it's under Tailwind, you've got to play defensively against it, which allows the other slot, like you mentioned, Scott,